The searing heat coursing through her body felt like volcanic magma, consuming her completely. The only relief was the man before her, the only one who could save her. Instinctively, she clung to the cool, marble-like skin, surrendering to the need for survival. Pleasure and pain intertwined, each sensation bursting like fireworks in her mind, leaving her adrift like a fragile boat in a blazing sea. Floating and sinking, she couldn't pull herself free. Hey, wake up. It's air-conditioned here. Don't catch a cold. The light pressure on her shoulder startled Ning Xi awake. She blinked up at the nurse's concerned eyes, her face instantly flushing with embarrassment. Avoiding the nurse's gaze, she ducked her head shamefully. Damn it. It had been so long, yet that night still haunted her dreams, her drunken, hazy night with Su-Yan. Thankfully, she had no clear memory of it. If she did, she wouldn't know how to face Brother Yan. The nurse interrupted her spiraling thoughts, handing over a paper. You forgot your pregnancy test report. Dr. Zhang said to come back next week for a follow-up. Taking the report, Ning Xi forced a sweet smile, tucking it carefully into her bag. Su-Yan was returning from an overseas investigation today. The thought of their meeting later filled her with nervous anticipation. She still vividly remembered how shocked he'd been when she told him about the pregnancy. At over 7 months along, it had been hard to keep it a secret any longer. Even now, she couldn't shake the feeling that Su-Yan wasn't as thrilled as she was. The doctor had reassured her that first-time fathers often needed time to adjust, but the thought nagged at her. Still, she couldn't bring herself to press for marriage. Not like this. Emerging from the hospital, the afternoon sun blazed overhead. Ning Xi, struggling with her swollen belly, was about to hail a taxi when a red sports car roared toward her at high speed. Her heart nearly stopped as the car veered dangerously close, screeching to a halt just inches away. Breathless and shaken, Ning Xi instinctively stepped back, only to see Ning Xi stepping out of the car. Clad in a tight red dress, her hair styled in big curls, she strutted toward Ning Xi with a smug, feline grace. Ning Xi, are you crazy? Ning Xi snapped, still trying to steady her racing heart. Ning Xi smirked, folding her arms as she looked down at Ning Xi's pregnant belly. What's the matter? Afraid I'll run over the bastard you're carrying. Ning Xi's hands flew to her stomach protectively, her eyes narrowing in wary anger. Don't push your luck, Ning Xi. But her sister's venomous grin only widened. Me? Push my luck? Look at you, Ning Xi drunk, sleeping with some random man, and now you're parading this pregnancy as if Su-Yan is the father. Shameless. Ning Xi froze. What nonsense are you spouting? Ning Xi laughed mockingly, leaning closer. Oh, don't tell me you actually believe the man you slept with that night was Su-Yan. She cackled, her words sharp as daggers. You've known him since you were kids, Ning Xi. Don't tell me you can't even recognize his body. The color drained from Ning Xi's face. The scorching sun overhead felt like ice against her skin as the truth began to dawn on her. That night. Could it be? She had assumed Su-Yan had simply grown stronger as an adult. But now, as Ning Xi words echoed in her ears, fragmented memories surfaced, details she hadn't questioned before. The man that night, he wasn't Su-Yan. He was someone else entirely. Ning Xi sneered, her tone dripping with malice. Let me tell you the truth. That night, you drank the wine I spiked. Don't even start talking about being unsatisfied. I was kind enough to find 2 strong men for you, but who knew you'd be so ungrateful and barge into some random wild man's room, and even. Her voice trailed off with faint disgust. Brother Yan was too kind. He worried you'd break down if you found out the truth, so he lied and told you it was him that night. Ning Xi's body trembled with fury. Her hand shot out, gripping Ning Xi's wrist tightly. Why would you do this to me? Why? Haven't you done enough harm already? Ning Xi frowned and tried to yank her arm free but caught sight of Su-Yan approaching. In an instant, her expression softened, and her voice turned pitiful. Sister, I know I was wrong. If you need to vent your anger, hit me, scold me, just don't blame Brother Yan. Ning Xi was caught off guard by the sudden shift. Before she could react, Ning Xi crumpled to the ground in an exaggerated display, as if Ning Xi had pushed her. Ning Xi, what are you doing? A sharp, reprimanding voice rang out behind her. Startled, Ning Xi spun around to see Su-Yan storming toward her, his face clouded with anger. He brushed past her and knelt to help Ning Xi up. Xi, are you okay? Ning Xi leaned into him, her frail act in full swing. Brother Yan, I didn't mean to upset her. I know I've done wrong, but it's all my fault. Sister, please don't be angry with Brother Yan. Su-Yan gently patted her shoulder, his gaze softening. It's okay, get in the car. I'll talk to her. As Ning Xi climbed into the vehicle, Su-Yan turned back to Ning Xi, his expression serious. His words came in a flood, recounting their childhood together, his internal conflict, and how he had come to forgive Ning Xi for her actions. He explained his guilt over Ning Xi's pregnancy and his eventual decision to accept Ning Xi's apology. Finally, his voice softened as he delivered the blow. Ning Xi, I'm sorry. I can't marry you. This isn't just about that night or the child. It's because I can't let Xi down anymore. I can't lie about my feelings any longer. The weight of his words settled like a crushing stone. Ning Xi stared at him, her voice breaking as she whispered, So, you knew all along? You knew it was Ning Xi who drugged me, and you lied to protect her. Su-Yan hesitated. Ning Xi, Xi was young and impulsive. And what about me? Ning Xi cut him off, her voice trembling with despair. Did you ever think about me? About what I went through? He said nothing, his silence speaking volumes. After a long pause, he reached out to her. The sun is harsh. Let's go home and talk. Don't touch me. Ning Xi slapped his hand away, laughing bitterly as tears streaked down her face. She felt like a puppet whose strings had finally snapped. She had shaped her life around Suyan, studying hard to get into B University just to be near him, abandoning her adoptive parents and dreams of acting to fit into his world. And now, all of it had led to this. You can't let Luo down, she spat. She's stolen everything from me, my identity, my parents, and now you. She was young, so her mistakes are forgivable? Then who's going to pay for my life? For my suffering? Her voice broke as she clutched her abdomen, her despair finally overwhelming her. She turned away, stepping toward the road in a daze. Suyan called after her, but his words were drowned out by the roaring in her ears. Behind her, Suyan hesitated, glancing between her retreating figure and Ning Xi hand on his sleeve. The hesitation cost him everything. A deafening screech of tires split the air, followed by a sickening thud. Help! Someone help! I hit a pregnant woman. Ning Xi's world spun as she felt her body thrown into the air. Pain erupted in her stomach, her vision swimming as blood dripped down her face. Through the blinding sunlight, she caught a glimpse of Ning Xi and Suyan's horrified faces before darkness consumed her.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Web Audio TV. If you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the like button.
5 years later, in the deserted corridor on the top floor of Eaton Bar, Ning Xi had been drinking with the investor all night and had a splitting headache. She was going to find a quiet place to sober up, but Cheng Li followed her, so she had to brace herself. What's up, Sister Cheng? Ning Xi, let me ask you, did you sign up for the audition of the leading actress in the world? Yes, why? You're not allowed to go tomorrow. As her agent, Cheng Li stopped her from auditioning for the role that was highly sought after by all the major entertainment companies. Ning Xi was not surprised. She just raised her eyebrows and asked, why? How dare you ask me for the reason after making the decision behind my back? Don't you know that the company has arranged for Shui Luo to audition? It doesn't seem to conflict with the company's arrangement. Ning Xi looked at her with a faint smile. Ning Shui Luo asked you to come to me? Could it be that she's afraid that an unknown actor like me will steal her role? Do you have the ability to steal Shui Luo's role? You're dreaming? Let me tell you, don't waste your time. The Ning family has invested 30 million yuan in this show, and Shui Luo has already been selected. In that case, why are you so nervous? You're my artist, so you have to listen to my arrangements. Cheng Li said matter-of-factly. Oh, Sister Cheng also knows that I'm your artist. Ning Xi, I don't have time to bicker with you. Since you don't know what to do, don't blame me. As soon as she finished speaking, Ning Xi felt a strong force coming at her. She was pushed into the warehouse of the bar and her phone was snatched away. With a bang, the door was slammed shut. The footsteps outside the door faded away. Ning Xi knew it was useless to shout, so she slid down the door and sat on the ground indifferently. When she first joined the company, Ning Shui Luo knew to restrain herself. At most, she would ask Cheng Li to arrange some vicious villains for her. But recently, she had gone too far and even resorted to such low-level means. If she couldn't get the role this time, she would have to find a way to leave Starlight Entertainment. As her thoughts were in a mess, she suddenly heard a slight sound. Was there a mouse? Ning Xi looked in the direction of the sound and was stunned. She saw a little boy behind a pile of boxes. The little fellow looked to be about 4 or 5 years old. He looked like he was carved from jade, and he was like a white and soft little bun. He was hiding in a corner and shivering, and his pitch-black eyes were filled with vigilance and vigilance. Why would there be kids in the bar's warehouse? There shouldn't be such an unreliable customer who would bring a child to a bar, right? Hey, little bun, who are you? How did you get in? Sneaked in. He was also locked up by someone. Do you want candy? After asking for a long time, the child did not say a word. He only trembled even more violently, like a frightened little animal. So Ning Xi stopped talking. It had nothing to do with her anyway. Just like that, the two of them occupied a corner and stayed there peacefully. At this moment, the light bulb above their heads suddenly flickered and then went out. In the darkness, Ning Xi vaguely heard a creaking sound. After carefully distinguishing it, she realized that it was the sound of teeth chattering. Ning Xi chuckled and said to the little bun, "Are you afraid of the dark?" The creaking stopped for a second, then grew louder. Why are you so timid? Ning Xi patted her butt and stood up, walking towards the little guy. The little bun was so scared that his face turned pale. However, Ning Xi sat down next to the little bun and did nothing. She closed her eyes and went to sleep. Tonight, Cheng Li took her to drink with people everywhere, so she had a terrible headache. When Ning Xi woke up, she felt something warm on the side of her leg. She looked down and saw that the little bun was rubbing against her leg and his little hand was still holding the corner of her clothes. Ning Xi laughed. When she was in the countryside, she had a cat. It was very timid and scared of people. It would run away when it saw people. However, as long as you didn't pay attention to it and let it relax and feel that you were not a threat, it would sneak up to you and even climb onto your knees to sleep. The little bun noticed her gaze and blushed. But this time, there was no panic in his eyes. Instead, his big eyes were full of curiosity. He really looked like a little kitten, even the look in his eyes. Ning Xi smiled and her hands were itchy. Finally, she couldn't help but reach out her hand to rub the furry head. As soon as he touched it, his expression immediately changed. Why was his forehead so hot? Do you have a fever? Cheng-Li would lock her up at least until the end of the audition tomorrow, or even longer. The child might be in danger if he continued to have a fever. She was anxious and found that something was wrong. The light bulb was broken. Why was there still light in the room? She looked up and found there was a small skylight above her head. Starlight sprinkled down from the window. Ning Xi looked around and brought a ladder over. Little Bun, come here. I will help you out. For the first time, the little boy responded to her words. He shook his head and looked determined. Ning Xi understood what he meant and pinched his face with a smile. You are quite loyal. You want to share the joys and sorrows with me? Go up. The window is too small for me to get out. You go out first and then find someone to save me. Seeing that the little boy was still hesitating, Ning Xi picked him up and put him on the ladder. Come on, don't waste time if you are a man. I will protect you from below. Finally, she sent the child out. Ning Xi felt dizzy and her legs gave way. She fell down from the ladder. Next to the window, when Little Bun saw this scene, a great amount of fear appeared on his previously lifeless little face. Ning Xi forced herself to say one word. Go. Under the starlight, the woman's pale and haggard face could not hide her breathtaking beauty. Especially that pair of eyes, they were clear and beautiful, and they seemed to be filled with an ocean that reflected the stars. She was no longer the country bumpkin and ugly duckling she used to be. But what was the use of that? Ning Xi smiled bitterly. She hadn't gotten her revenge, and she was going to fall to her death here. However, he had saved a Little Bun before he died, so it could be considered a good deed. If her child hadn't died back then, he would probably be around this age. After the car accident 5 years ago, the Ning family felt that she was a disgrace and sent her to a diploma mill that specialized in accepting rich playboys, leaving her to fend for herself. She dropped out of school and applied to USC again, absorbing all kinds of knowledge like crazy. Because she wanted to defeat Ning Xueluo and take back everything that belonged to her. Most importantly, acting was her biggest dream in this life. After returning to China, with her good looks and solid acting skills, she was spotted by Cheng-Li and successfully entered the industry's largest management company, Starlight Entertainment. Her path to stardom was supposed to be smooth, but Ning Xueluo also entered Starshine and bribed Cheng-Li to suppress her. At the same time, the atmosphere in the reception room of Eden Bar was unusually heavy. The bar owner, manager, security guards, and related staff all stood in a row, trembling with fear. They all looked as if they were facing imminent disaster. Lu Group's little prince, Lu Tingxiao's precious son, had gone missing in their bar. On the sofa, Lu Tingxiao's face was as cold and hard as ever, like an ice sculpture without any extra expression. However, the pressure that belonged to a superior made everyone present feel weak in the legs and sweat like rain. They didn't even dare to breathe loudly. A young man was kneeling at his feet, crying and snot. Brother, I'm sorry, it's all my fault. I shouldn't have brought Xiao Bao to the bar. If anything happens to Xiao Bao, I don't want to live anymore. As soon as he finished speaking, he was kicked in the chest. The sound of bones breaking made everyone's scalp go numb, and everyone in the room trembled. Lu Jingli clutched his chest and coughed for a while. He immediately got up and straightened his back. His parents were on vacation abroad and didn't know that Xiao Bao was missing. If they knew, he would be skinned alive, and it wouldn't be as simple as being kicked by his brother. Lu Jingli's heart was in despair when someone suddenly knocked on the door of the reception room. The bar owner who was closest to the door opened it and was surprised to see no one there. He looked down and was stunned. Young master. Xiao Bao? Oh my god. Xiao Bao? Second uncle's sweetheart? Where the hell did you run off to? Lu Jingli crawled up and hugged the little fellow tightly. He was so moved that he cried bitterly. Everyone in the room looked as if they had just survived a disaster. Lu Tingxiao walked to the door, grabbed Lu Jingli by the back of his collar, and threw him away. He then squatted down in front of his son. What's wrong? Xiao Bao finally got out of his second uncle's clutches. He grabbed Lu Tingxiao's hand and anxiously tried to pull him out. As soon as Lu Tingxiao got close to his son, he could smell the scent of alcohol on him. Apart from that, there was also a faint fragrance. It wasn't the pungent smell of perfume. Instead, it was like a small flower that bloomed on a glacier, exuding a faint, cold fragrance. He felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity, and his heart even palpitated for a moment. Seeing that Lu Tingxiao didn't move, Little Bao's little finger pointed towards a direction, and he was anxious to the point of emitting hoarse sounds. Lu Tingxiao picked up his son and walked in the direction his son pointed. Seeing this, Lu Jingli and the rest of the people behind him looked at each other and followed suit. 5 minutes later, the group stopped in front of the warehouse on the top floor. Xiao Bao wriggled his body off his father and banged on the door of the warehouse with great force. He looked extremely anxious. What's wrong with Xiao Bao? What's inside? Lu Jingli was confused. Lu Tingxiao ordered expressionlessly, open the door. Yes. The bar owner nodded, then turned his head and scolded the female manager beside him. Manager, yeah, what are you waiting for? Open the door? Where's the key? Open the door. The female manager froze. Oh no, Ning Xi was still locked in there? She had promised Cheng-Li that she would lock her up until the end of the audition? However, with the two gods of the Lu family and her boss waiting, how could she say no? She could only take out the key and open the door with trembling hands. As soon as the door was opened, she saw a woman lying on the ground, unconscious. What's going on? Why is there a woman inside? The bar owner was furious. I don't know either. There wasn't anyone inside when I checked before. The female manager tried to explain with a guilty conscience. Hurry up, save her first. As soon as someone tried to approach Ning Xi, Xiao Bao immediately threw himself at Ning Xi with a ferocious face, not allowing anyone to approach. Boss Lu, this. The bar owner was at a loss. He couldn't figure out what was going on. Lu Tingxiao's gaze swept past the female manager, who looked guilty. Then, he glanced at the collapsed ladder on the ground and the skylight that could only fit a child. He could roughly guess what had happened. He raised his hand and dismissed everyone. Then, he walked over and carried the woman personally. The faint, cold fragrance in his arms became even more distinct. Seeing that Lu Tingxiao was going to carry her, Xiao Bao didn't stop him. However, he didn't look very willing. He looked as if he would have carried her himself if he wasn't so small. First People's Hospital of B City. When Ning Xi woke up, it was already the next morning. As soon as she opened her eyes, she saw a man sitting on a chair by the window. His slender legs were crossed casually. His well-tailored suit outlined his broad shoulders and thin waist. The buttons on his white shirt were meticulously buttoned up to his collar. Even though he was under the morning sun, his body seemed to be covered with an eternal layer of ice. His cold and arrogant expression was like that of a king in a medieval castle. The man seemed to sense her gaze. He suddenly raised his deep, deep-sea eyes and shot a cold gaze straight at her. That gaze was too invasive. It was like a sharp scalpel dissecting her inch by inch. It was hair-raising. Ning Xi shivered. She couldn't care less about the uncomfortable gaze of this strange man in front of her. She asked anxiously, "Sir, may I ask how I came here? Have you seen a little boy? He's 4 or 5 years old. He doesn't like to talk. He's fair and soft and looks adorable." Adorable. The man raised his eyebrows at Ning Xi's description. Then, his gaze shifted to her right. His voice was as cold as his. "You mean Xiao Bao?" Ning Xi hurriedly followed the man's gaze. She saw a fair and soft little bun sleeping soundly on the small bed beside her. There was an IV drip on the back of his hand. "Yes, that's him. His name is Xiao Bao." Ning Xi finally heaved a sigh of relief. She leaned over and touched Xiao Bao's forehead. The fever had subsided. She regretted saving the child earlier. After all, the child was too young and had a fever. In a chaotic place like the bar, what if something happened to him if he went out alone? Ning Xi looked at the ice sculpture man again. "Are you this kid's?" As soon as the words left her mouth, Ning Xi realized that she seemed to have asked for nothing. The big and the small looked like they were carved from the same mold. They were definitely father and son, biological children. As expected, the ice sculpture replied, "Father. Hi, beauty, you're awake. I'm Xiaobeo's second uncle." Suddenly a big face came over. Ning Xi subconsciously stepped back. When she saw the man's face clearly, she was stunned. Lu Jingli. He was the second son of Lu Group and the boss of Shenxi Entertainment. Because of his outstanding appearance and romantic personality, he appeared in the entertainment pages of newspapers and magazines more often than artists. There was no way she would mistake that face for someone else. The ice sculpture man was Xiao Bao's father, and Lu Jingli was Xiao Bao's second uncle. Wasn't that ice sculpture Lu Jingli's brother, Lu Tingxiao? Lu Tingxiao was known as the god of fortune in the capital city. He was like the uncrowned king of the capital city. She never expected that the person she saved was Lu Tingxiao's legendary illegitimate son, the shiny little prince. Lu Tingxiao sized up the woman on the bed, as if trying to figure out if the look of surprise on her face was real. After a while, he finally believed that she didn't know about Xiaobeo's identity, so he said coldly, "Your request." What request? Ning Xi didn't understand the meaning of these words that came out of nowhere. "My brother wants to thank you for saving Xiaobeo. He wants you to make a request." Lu Jingli looked as if she had hit the jackpot. Ning Xi thought quickly and then said cautiously, "Actually, you don't have to thank me. I did save Xiaobeo, but he also saved me. If Xiaobeo hadn't gone out to call for help, I would still be locked up in there. So we're even." Although she had been lucky enough to save little crown prince, she didn't dare to take credit for it. The richer one was, the more paranoid they would be, not to mention the Lu family, which was a super rich and powerful family. It would be nice if they didn't suspect that she was up to something. Didn't Lu Tingxiao look at her as if she were a thief? To avoid future trouble, it was better to cut ties with them. Ning Xi didn't think there was anything wrong with her answer, but Lu Tingxiao looked unhappy, which made her nervous. Did she say anything wrong? Why did he look so scary? "Brother, don't look so scary. Those who know will think you're repaying a debt of gratitude, but those who don't know will think you're taking revenge." Lu Jingli couldn't bear to see the beauty being frightened, so he said to Ning Xi, "My brother doesn't like to owe people favors. You'd better make a request. Don't stand on ceremony." How could he force her to make a request? Ning Xi's mouth twitched. "I'm not being polite. I'm telling the truth. If you don't believe me, you can check." "No need." Lu Tingxiao's reply was concise and to the point. His expression was already slightly impatient. Lu Jingli said, "There are surveillance cameras in the warehouse of the bar. I've seen them. Xiaobeo ran in by himself. As for you, the bar manager admitted that she locked you in, so don't worry. We don't suspect you. You did save Xiaobeo. You'd better make a request." Fine, he was back to square one again? In the end, Ning Xi had no choice but to bite the bullet and say under Lu Tingxiao's threatening gaze, "How about, you give me money? Don't rich people like this kind of direct way of repaying?" With Lu Tingxiao's personality, he would probably like to use money to solve his problems. If she didn't want money, people might think that she had other intentions. If she didn't want money, could it be that she wanted someone? Just when Ning Xi was certain that this was the most suitable request, Lu Tingxiao's expression turned even uglier. Ning Xi was about to cry. Why did he have to be so stingy with his words? Couldn't he just say what he wanted to say? Could he die of exhaustion by saying a few words? Lu Jing touched his nose. My brother thinks it's too insulting to pay. Ning Xi roared in her heart, it doesn't matter, come and insult me. The Lu family's identity was too special. She really didn't know what to ask for. Just when the situation was at an impasse, Lu Tingxiao spoke. Marry me? Ning Xi was stunned for a second, then coughed violently, almost choking on her own saliva. Cough, cough, cough. What did you say? When she finally stopped coughing, she immediately looked at Lu Jingli anxiously. Second young master, please translate. However, this time, it wasn't just Ning Xi. Lu Jingli was also stunned. Brother, what do you mean? I can't translate this time? At this moment, Ning Xi suddenly had an idea. She said shakily, is it because I saved your son that you've decided to repay me with your body? Lu Tingxiao nodded slightly. He thought for a moment and nodded. You can say that. Ning Xi looked at the man in front of her with an expressionless, cold face and said something shocking. She touched her forehead weakly. Doctor, where is the doctor? I think I might have broken my brain and am having hallucinations. Lu Jingli put on an innocent face and said, is my brain damaged even if I didn't fall? At this moment, Ning Xi can't accept the fact even though she has been abused thousands of times. She saved a little bun and the little bun's father said he would marry her? If it were someone else, it would be fine. If he was a little handsome, it would be a romantic encounter. But this is Lu Tingxiao. Lu Tingxiao? In terms of appearance, she is not bad, but Lu Tingxiao has seen all kinds of peerless beauties. If he just likes her, she won't be so scared. It's understandable that Lu Tingxiao likes her face and wants to play with her. But he said marry me, which is horrifying. Most importantly, don't you like men? Ning Xi blurts out. Ha ha ha. Lu Jingli laughs. Lu Tingxiao's face is as dark as the bottom of a pot and the whole ward is suddenly overcast. After a long time, Lu Jingli finally holds back his laughter. If my brother likes men, then where did Xiaobao come from? Well, surrogacy, artificial insemination. If my brother likes men, why would he marry you? To cover up his true sexual orientation. Ha 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 ha, brother, I can't help you. I also heard that you two are a couple. Ning Xi looks between the two brothers subtly. Ahem ahem ahem. Lu Jingli is scared and chokes. Damn, that's too heavy? Although I'm as beautiful as a flower, I like both men and women. At this time, someone in the center of the storm slowly stands up from the chair and walks towards Ning Xi with his slender legs. Jingli, take Xiaobao out. Ah, brother, what do you want to do? Lu Tingxiao slowly adjusted his cuffs. Prove to Miss Ning that my sexual orientation is true. Looking at the other side's extremely gloomy and terrible face, and the eyes that seemed to want to tear her apart and swallow her, Ning Xi was so scared that she fell off the bed, shrank behind Xiaobao, and almost crawled under the bed. Mr. Lu, this has nothing to do with me. It's all those people outside who are spouting nonsense. Every debt has its debtor. Also, you really don't need to thank me. If you really want me to make a request, then please don't make me make a request anymore. Sorry, I have a very important audition later. I have to go first. Let's meet again if fate wills it. Ning Xi spoke quickly and was about to slip away. However, she had barely taken a few steps when she heard Lu Tingxiao's cold voice behind her. Did I allow you to leave? Ning Xi was so scared that her calves and stomach were trembling. My life is over? A few seconds later, under Ning Xi's desperate gaze, Lu Tingxiao handed her a piece of paper and a pen. Miss Ning, please leave a note for Xiaobao, in case he gets worried when he wakes up and sees you. Just like that? It was like surviving a calamity? Okay, no problem. I can even write a letter of 10,000 words. Ning Xi suddenly breathed a sigh of relief, picked up the pen and began to write. After writing, she was afraid that something might happen, so she rushed away. Looking at the girl's back, the man's eyes were deep, as if looking at a prey that had been put on chains. After Ning Xi left, Lu Jingli immediately jumped up and down beside his brother. Brother, am I dreaming? Do you really like Ning Xi? 32 years? You've been grinding an iron bar into a needle, but you've never taken a fancy to a girl. Even as your brother, I'm starting to wonder if you're gay. As soon as he said the word gay, he was blocked by his brother. Shut up. Oh, Lu Jingli choked. He was full of gossip, but he couldn't ask. It was really suffocating. It was rush hour and there was a serious traffic jam. Ning Xi was late when she arrived. Chengli and Ning Xueluo came out of the audition building happily, surrounded by a group of people who congratulated them. Ning Xueluo saw Ning Xi rushing over with sweat all over her face. The way she looked at her was exactly the same as 5 years ago. It was as if she was looking down on an ant. Seeing Ning Xueluo get into the nanny van and drive away arrogantly, Ning Xi didn't leave. Instead, she quickly ran into the building. It wasn't too late. Halfway there, she bumped into a group of people who were talking and laughing. They were the judges of Under the Heavens. Sorry, I'm late. Ning Xi bowed deeply. Looking at Ning Xi who suddenly blocked their way, the judges looked at each other in dismay, all looking a little unhappy. No one liked being late. The assistant director said with a straight face, the audition is over. What's the point of coming here now? Young people nowadays are getting more and more unreliable. I'm not here for the audition. Ning Xi said. Oh, you're not here for the audition? Then why are you here for the audition? The scriptwriter asked with interest. I'm here for the second female lead, Meng Changa. As far as I know, you didn't find a suitable candidate in the last audition for the second female lead? Ning Xi raised her head as soon as she finished speaking. The moment Ning Xi raised her head, there was at least 5 seconds of silence. The assistant director who had been unfriendly just now was staring at her. The girl had red lips and white teeth. Her black hair reached her waist and she was wearing a bright red dress. Even such a strong color couldn't suppress her beauty. She just stood there quietly, but it was as if she was standing in a misty forest, like a fox that had cultivated for 1,000 years. That pair of enchanting eyes made people fall into the boundless spring scenery if they were not careful. Although her cultivation was deep, it was as if she had never set foot in the mortal world. The bottom of her eyes was pure and clear. What's your name? It wasn't until director Guo Kishan spoke that the judges woke up. It was as if they had just had a charming dream. Ning Xi. Director Guo exchanged glances with the assistant director, scriptwriter, and producer and said, I remember you. You're an artist from Xinhui, right? Go back and prepare. You'll be the second female lead. We'll inform you when the shooting starts. Thank you, director. I will prepare well. Ning Xi bowed to express her gratitude. From the very beginning, Ning Xi's goal was to be the second female lead. For this role, she had pondered for 3 whole months, trying to understand Meng Changa's feelings and temperament, striving to be able to move the judges at a glance. Although there were many twists and turns, fortunately, she succeeded. After Ning Xi left, director Guo sighed repeatedly. This is really like wearing out iron shoes in fruitless search, only to find it by chance. Although this girl has signed with Star Hui, her qualifications are too lousy. With such qualifications, she actually came to audition for the female lead. I didn't take it to heart at all, but in the end, I didn't expect her to be so much prettier than in the photos. The scriptwriter, Ye Linglong, could not suppress her excitement. The most important thing is her temperament. The look in her eyes just now was on point. Before Meng Changa became a demoness, she was a righteous female general. She could be flirtatious, but she could never be vulgar. She even had to maintain a sense of innocence and detachment from the world. The actresses who came for the audition before acted like I was the courtesan of a brothel. I'm so mad. Ha ha ha, don't be angry. Your song is finally here. At the same time, in the First People's Hospital of B City, the ward where little Bun was in a complete mess. The little fellow curled up barefoot on the windowsill. He was extremely emotional and shouted at the top of his lungs. No matter what the doctors and nurses said, he wouldn't come down. Lu Jingli was coaxing him like a precious baby, but the little fellow didn't listen to him at all. Lu Jingli had no choice but to call Lu Tingxiao, who had just been called away by the company, back. Brother, you're finally here. Xiao Bao suddenly went berserk. What happened? Lu Tingxiao asked in a low voice. I don't know. He looked for Ning Xi everywhere after he woke up. I thought he might be looking for Ning Xi, so I told him not to look for her. The beautiful auntie had left. As soon as I said that, he went berserk. Xiao Bao seems to like Ning Xi, but he shouldn't have been so excited when he heard that she had left. Besides, Xiao Bao hadn't been so emotional for a long time. After hearing what had happened, Lu Tingxiao walked straight to his son. Seeing Lu Tingxiao approaching, the little boy immediately shrank back vigilantly. His eyes were full of defensiveness and rejection, and he didn't even recognize his own father. Lu Tingxiao stopped 3 steps away from his son and said calmly, your second uncle told you that auntie has passed away, but he meant it literally. There's nothing wrong with her body, and she's been discharged from the hospital. She hasn't passed away, unlike your grandmother, who left and never came back. Do you understand? Lu Tingxiao would probably only be so patient in front of his son and say such a long sentence in one breath. Lu Jingli was dumbfounded. Are you kidding me? I only said 2 words, I'm leaving, and he's already imagining so much? In fact, Xiao Bao had seen Ning Xi fall with his own eyes. He had been frightened, so it was not surprising that he had misunderstood his father's words. After hearing Lu Tingxiao's explanation, Xiao Bao temporarily stopped screaming, but he still lowered his head and shrank on the windowsill, motionless. So Lu Tingxiao took out a note. She gave it to you. Do you want to read it? Xiao Bao froze and then, as if a switch had been pressed, he raised his head and opened his short arms, asking for a hug. Lu Jingli. All the doctors and nurses. They had been tortured to the point of breaking down, but Lu Tingxiao had solved it with a piece of paper. Lu Jingli had thought that his brother's action of asking Ning Xi for a note was unnecessary, but now he was completely convinced. Lu Tingxiao sat down on the sofa with his son in his arms and handed him the note. The little boy couldn't wait to take it. He had already learned how to read it. Baby, thank you for saving me. You're amazing. Mwah. Looking at the words on the note and the heart drawn at the back, the little guy's eyes sparkled and his little face seemed to be a little red. Although he pursed his lips reservedly, the corners of his mouth couldn't help but curl up slightly. Needless to say, he looked very cute. Lu Jingli looked as if he had seen a ghost. Damn, did my eyes deceive me just now, brother? Our little treasure actually smiled? I can't even remember when was the last time I saw him smile. What did Ning Xi write? Lu Jingli wanted to peek, but Xiaobao immediately hid it like a treasure. However, Lu Tingxiao had already seen it. It was a rather ordinary message. How could it make little treasure so happy? Ning Xi was really not simple. Lu Tingxiao didn't say anything. He looked at his son with a gentle gaze. After Xiaobao woke up, Lu Tingxiao directly took him home and pushed off all the work at the company to stay at home with him. At night, at Supreme Platinum Palace number 8, the spacious living room was cold and cheerless. Two people, one big and one small, sat opposite each other across the dining table, each with a colder expression than the other. Lu Tingxiao said, "Let's eat." Xiaobao turned a deaf ear. Lu Tingxiao said, "I'll say it for the last time." Xiaobao didn't move at all. Lu Tingxiao said, "Do you think a childish threat like a hunger strike will work on me?" Xiaobao was completely immersed in his own world like an old monk and didn't respond to the outside world. The father and son continued to face each other. An hour later, Lu Tingxiao called Lu Tingxiao, "Send me Ning Xi's address." Well, it turned out that a hunger strike was quite effective. Lu Tingxiao was very efficient. He immediately sent Ning Xi's specific address to his brother's cell phone, along with a lot of gossip. Of course, Lu Tingxiao directly ignored them. This time, Xiaobao didn't need to say anything. Seeing his father pick up his coat and car keys, Xiaobao immediately followed him. Lu Tingxiao looked down at his son at his feet and bent down to pick him up helplessly. "Just don't do it again." Ning Xi took a nap after coming back from the audition building. She then went to the supermarket to buy hot pot base, side dishes, and beer. She had won the first battle, so she decided to eat hot pot at home to celebrate. Eating hot pot alone was the highest form of loneliness. Fortunately, she had always been a loner and was used to it. Just as she was about to add the food into the pot, there was a knock on the door. Who would come at this time? Ning Xi opened the door suspiciously and was stunned. Outside the door, Lu Tingxiao was wearing a suit and a black coat. He was holding a little bun in his arms and the little bun was holding a colorful fruit basket. What kind of strange combination was this? "Mr. Lu." Ning Xi swallowed her saliva. "Why are you here? It's so late, what's the matter?" "Visiting the patient." Lu Tingxiao's thin lips spat out two words. "Visiting a patient?" It was so late at night and he brought the little bun with him? She had only fallen a little, and she was still alive and kicking. Mr. Lu, you are too polite, please come in." "I'm sorry, the room is a little messy." Ning Xi didn't have time to think. She was flattered and invited him in. She quickly tidied up the room, removed the junk from the sofa, and stuffed the messy clothes under the bed. "Take a seat. What would you like to drink? How about tea and milk?" While Ning Xi was busy, she tried her best to guess Lu Tingxiao's intention. Unfortunately, Lu Tingxiao's cultivation was too profound, and she couldn't guess it no matter how hard she tried. "Sure." Lu Tingxiao nodded, as if he was answering a soldier reporting to him. Ning Xi could only make a cup of tea for Lu Tingxiao and a glass of milk for the little bun. Lu Tingxiao sat on the sofa in the cramped living room and the little bun sat next to him. The father and son not only looked alike but also had the same expression. They were both expressionless. Neither spoke. Then there was an awkward silence. Ning Xi sat opposite and wanted to cry. What the hell, what were these two doing here? At this moment, there was a bubbling sound from the pot and the air was filled with a tempting spicy smell. Ning Xi wanted to break the silence and casually said, "Well, have you had dinner? I was preparing to make hot pot, do you want to eat together?" Lu Tingxiao said, "Sure." Little Bun nodded. Ning Xi, she was just being polite. Why did the two of you agree so readily? A big CEO and a young master. What kind of delicacies had they not eaten before? Why would they come to eat a shabby family hot pot with a commoner like her? Even Ning Xi herself felt that she couldn't take it out. However, he had already said what he wanted to say, so he could only bite the bullet and invite them to the table. Then, he ordered 2 more sets of bowls and chopsticks. "The seasoning I bought is quite spicy. Can you eat spicy food?" Ning Xi asked worriedly. Lu Tingxiao, "Sure." Little Bun nodded. "All right." Ning Xi brought over the washed side dishes. Lu Tingxiao didn't eat much. Most of the time, he was cooking for them. Little Bun, on the other hand, liked spicy food just like her. It was so spicy that she stuck out her tongue. In the end, even Ning Xi was a little worried. Is it not good for children to eat too much spicy food? If anything were to happen to this little prince while he was here, she wouldn't be able to bear the responsibility. "I'm not that weak." Lu Tingxiao didn't think much of it. So Ning Xi didn't say anything more. "How was the audition?" Lu Tingxiao, who had been silent all this while, suddenly spoke. Ning Xi was stunned for a moment before she reacted. She replied, "It went well, so I made hot pot today as a celebration." Lu Tingxiao raised his glass. "Congratulations." He didn't expect that the first congratulation he received would come from Lu Tingxiao. Ning Xi clinked the beer in her hand with his and smiled from the bottom of her heart. "Thank you." The moment the girl smiled, Lu Tingxiao's mind swayed unnoticeably. Ning Xi looked at Xiaobao and said, "I have to thank Xiaobao this time. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't have been able to make it to the audition in time. Come, baby, let me toast you." Xiaobao looked at his milk and then at Ning Xi and his father's beer. He seemed a little reluctant, but in the end, he clinked his glass with Ning Xi and gulped down the rest. Ning Xi was tickled by his serious look and couldn't help but laugh. Did he even know what it meant to be deeply in love? Halfway through, Lu Tingxiao went to the balcony to answer a call. Ning Xi immediately went over to Xiaobao and handed him her beer. Haha, are you curious about the taste? Quick, 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 while your dad isn't here, have a sip. But only a sip. Xiao Bao's eyes were as bright as the stars in the sky. He lowered his head and carefully took a sip. Although it didn't taste good at all, he felt very happy. When Lu Tingxiao came back from the call, Ning Xi immediately sat up straight and pretended that nothing had happened. Xiao Bao was more professional. He drank the milk slowly and didn't seem to be out of place. Lu Tingxiao didn't seem to notice. He sat down as usual, but a trace of warmth quickly disappeared from the bottom of his eyes. The three of them weren't bad. She had bought a lot of food and finished them all. Ning Xi saw that it was getting late and was wondering if they should go back. Suddenly, a flash of lightning flashed across the sky, followed by the rumbling of thunder. A strong wind started blowing outside the window. I saw the weather forecast that there would be a storm tonight and a typhoon. Ning Xi looked at the pouring rain outside the window with a headache. Xiao Bao looked at Ning Xi and Lu Tingxiao looked at Ning Xi. In the end, Ning Xi could only say, "It's so late and the weather isn't good. Mr. Lu, it might be dangerous for you to rush back with Xiao Bao. How about, you stay at my place for the night?" Out of politeness, she thought that Lu Tingxiao definitely wouldn't agree. In the end, Lu Tingxiao said, "Okay." Xiao Bao nodded. Damn, why did he agree? Lu Tingxiao was too easy to talk to. Why did she have an illusion that they were looking forward to her saying this? He was going crazy. In the end, Lu Tingxiao and Xiao Bao stayed behind. The dormitory that the company arranged for her wasn't big. It only had one bedroom and one living room. Sleeping at night was really a problem. "I'll sleep in the living room tonight. Mr. Lu, can you and Xiao Bao sleep in my room? I'll go change the sheets." "No need. I'll sleep in the living room. You and Xiaobao can sleep in the bedroom." Lu Tingxiao's tone left no room for refusal. Ning Xi felt guilty. Not only did she treat President Lu to a cheap hot pot, but she also asked him to sleep in the living room. If there was only Lu Tingxiao tonight, she wouldn't let him stay even if it was hailing, especially when Lu Tingxiao said those words during the day. But she had no choice, there was still a little bun. It was indeed too dangerous for him to rush back with a child in this weather. Moreover, with a little bun, it shouldn't be considered a lonely man and woman, right? Ning Xi could only accept her fate. "I'll see if I can find some clothes for you to change into." After rummaging for a while, she actually managed to find it. There was a set of children's pajamas in the shape of Pikachu that the manufacturer gave her when she was working part-time. She casually stuffed it in the cabinet, and it was perfect for Xiao Bao to wear. Lu Tingxiao was easier to deal with. His brother had left a few pieces of clothing with her. After recognizing her biological parents, Ning Xi felt sorry for her adoptive parents. She was too ashamed to face them, so she rarely contacted them. She only had some contact with her younger brother, Tang Yo. After finding clothes, Ning Xi went into the room to get a new quilt and pillow for Lu Tingxiao. The sofa in the living room wasn't big enough for Lu Tingxiao's long legs, so she had no choice but to lengthen a stool. Xiaobao was quite worry-free. After taking a shower, he put on Ming Meng's pajamas and lay down on the bed. After taking a shower, Ning Xi changed into a more conservative two-piece pajamas. After making sure that she didn't wear anything inappropriate, she walked out. Then, "Mr. Lu, I'm going to bed now. Call me if you need anything." "Yes." Looking at Ning Xi, who had just finished bathing, Lu Tingxiao's eyes lost focus for a moment, and then the darkness in his eyes was overwhelming. The girl's hair was tied into a bun, and she was wearing the most ordinary two-piece pajamas. She didn't have any makeup on her face, and her jade-like skin had a natural blush from the steam. It could be seen that Ning Xi had deliberately avoided arousing suspicion. There was nothing wrong with her image. However, Lu Tingxiao's current feelings were somewhat indescribable because he discovered that a certain part of his lower body was actually showing signs of lifting up. After Ning Xi entered the bedroom, she suddenly saw that there was a cute little thing on her bed. Her mood was very strange. Ever since last night, many things had developed beyond her expectations. Hurry up and sleep. She lay down beside Little Bun and turned off the main light, leaving only the bedside lamp on. Little Baezai blinked his eyes, showing no signs of sleeping. Ning Xi had a headache again. It seemed like children needed to be told stories to sleep. Ning Xi shrugged helplessly. "I don't know how to tell stories. How about I sing a song for you?" Little Bun nodded with an expectant expression. So Ning Xi gently patted Little Bun's back and sang softly, "Half cold, half warm autumn. Pressed to your side. Quietly watching the dancing streamers. The red leaves in the wind. To make one's heart flutter. Half drunk and half sober. Hold back your laughter for 1,000 times. Just let me drift like snow in the clouds. Kiss a face lightly with ice. Bring forth wave after wave of lingering. How much love left in the world. Welcome the 1,000 transformations of floating life." Ning Xi was stuck at this point because the next line was doing happy things with a lover. Damn it, these lyrics don't seem to be suitable for children. Let's change to another song. Ahem, Auntie can't sing the rest of the song. Auntie will change it for you. Little Bun obediently nodded in agreement. Ning Xi racked her brains and changed to a safer nursery rhyme. There's a little frog in the happy pond. When it dances, it's like it's possessed by a prince. No frog can be more beautiful than its cool eyes. One day, it'll be awakened by the princess. I believe that miracles are waiting for me. I'm confident that you'll accompany me when I grow up. After singing Little Jumping Frog 3 times, he finally heard the sound of sweet breathing. Taking care of children is really not easy. Suddenly, she admired Lu Tingxiao for being a single father. Who was little Beizai's mother? Why wasn't she with Lu Tingxiao after giving birth to little Beizai? Was it because of his low status that the Lu family refused to accept him? Or did he have some unknown entanglement with Lu Tingxiao? Ning Xi gradually fell asleep as she let her imagination run wild. In the middle of the night, Ning Xi was woken up by a muffled sound from the living room. Xiao Bao was sleeping soundly. She quietly got out of bed to see what was going on. She pushed open the bedroom door and saw Lu Tingxiao pouring water. He was holding his stomach with one hand and his face looked very pale. Ning Xi hurried over. "Mr. Lu, are you okay?" "I'm fine." Do you have a stomachache?" Lu Tingxiao didn't say anything. Ning Xi knew she had guessed right. So Lu Tingxiao couldn't eat spicy food. Why did he eat it? "Wait, I'll get you some medicine." Luckily, she had the usual medicine at home. Ning Xi hurriedly fetched the medicine for the stomach. "Take both." "Thank you." Lu Tingxiao took the medicine from her palm. His cold fingertips brushed against her skin. It felt like he was brushing against her heart, making her feel numb. It was a stormy night and such a beauty was right in front of her. It was too easy to go wrong. Ning Xi recited the pi for a long time before she calmed down. Seeing Lu Tingxiao take the medicine, she couldn't leave immediately, so she stayed with him for a while. "Are you feeling better? Do you need to go to the hospital?" "Sorry, I didn't know you couldn't eat spicy food." She had been worried about Xiao Bao, but Xiao Bao was fine. Lu Tingxiao was in trouble. What was going on? "It's nothing to do with you. It's just an old problem." They were silent for a while. Lu Tingxiao suddenly said, "I'm sorry to disturb you tonight because Xiao Bao wants to see you." Ning Xi was surprised. "Xiao Bao wants to see me?" Xiao Bao was frightened in the warehouse. "You saved him, so he is very dependent on you now," Lu Tingxiao explained. Ning Xi found that as long as Xiao Bao was by his side, or when she mentioned anything about him, Lu Tingxiao's cold aura would be much more restrained. He was not as scary as he was during the day. "I see." Ning Xi nodded. Probably because it was easy to let down one's guard at night, Ning Xi asked the question that had been bothering her for a long time. "May I ask if Xiao Bao doesn't know how to speak?" She had never heard Xiao Bao say a word. The little guy only knew how to nod and shake his head. "It's not that he can't speak, he just doesn't want to," Lu Tingxiao replied. "So it's because of his psychology." Ning Xi frowned. "Xiaobao is slightly autistic." Lu Tingxiao didn't hide it. "I see." It was about the same as what she had guessed. As for why Xiaobao was autistic, she naturally didn't dare to ask about this kind of rich and powerful secret. "Miss Ning." Lu Tingxiao suddenly stared intently at her. That gaze was clearly cold and clear, but it gave her the illusion that it could burn people to ashes. Ning Xi was startled by his stare. "Have we met somewhere before?" Lu Tingxiao asked. If this question had been asked by someone else, Ning Xi would have been sure that the person was hitting on her, an old-fashioned one at that. However, the person who spoke was Lu Tingxiao, and the confusion in his eyes was genuine. "I don't think so. If I had met someone like you, Mr. Lu, there's no way I wouldn't have an impression of you. Is there a problem?" Ning Xi's tone was quite certain. With her identity, even when she was the eldest daughter of the Ning family, it was impossible for her to meet someone like Lu Tingxiao. "It's nothing." Lu Tingxiao looked away, his eyes reflecting the dark night outside the window. He looked a little lonely. If they continued to be alone like this, the atmosphere wouldn't be good. "Mr. Lu, if there's nothing else, I'll go to bed first," Ning Xi said cautiously. Lu Tingxiao seemed to see through her and raised his hand. "No hurry, sit down." "No hurry?" She was in a hurry? Words 978 Update 22/07/018 hours 31 minutes and 1 second. Ning Xi sat down with a long face. She sat like a primary school student. Lu Tingxiao rested his head on his hand. "Are you afraid of me?" Lu Tingxiao was more sinister and dangerous in the middle of the night than he was in the day. Ning Xi shook her head like a rattle and then nodded. "There should be no one in the capital who isn't afraid of you, right?" Lu Tingxiao twirled the cup with his slender fingers and said, "Just because everyone else is afraid of me, you're afraid too? Then, other women want to marry me. Why don't you want to?" Ning Xi almost fell off the chair in fright at this question. She had thought she had dodged a bullet during the day, but she was too naive. How was she going to answer this damned question? Ning Xi raised her hand shakily. "Before I answer this question, can I ask a question?" Lu Tingxiao nodded. "Sure. Why me? Is it because Xiaobao is very dependent on me? I think it's just temporary. It'll be fine when he's emotionally stable. Even if he continues to be like this, you don't have to suffer like this." Ning Xi tried to persuade him as if she were a young girl who had lost her footing. Lu Tingxiao put down the cup in his hand and looked up at her. "Miss Ning, I thought I made it very clear from the beginning. If you still don't understand, I don't mind saying it again. Because you saved Xiaobao, I've decided to repay you with my body. It's this reason that I can't accept it, okay?" Ning Xi roared in her heart. Ning Xi felt that she couldn't get through to him on this issue anymore. She could only say apologetically, "Mr. Lu, thank you very much for your kindness. Actually, I don't believe in marriage, so..." Lu Tingxiao raised an eyebrow. "So, you only want to sleep with me? And you don't want to marry me? That's right." "Pui? No, I didn't mean that." Ning Xi was about to kneel down in front of him. Could he not be so frightening? "It's a pity that I only accept sexual relationships based on marriage. Who would believe that?" Ning Xi couldn't help muttering. You're pregnant before marriage, okay? Lu Tingxiao looked out of the window, looking a little lost. Xiaobao is an accident. I don't know who his mother is. Why did that sound so lousy? Do you mind that I have a son? Lu Tingxiao suddenly asked. Impossible. Just as Lu Tingxiao had said, all the women in the capital wanted to be Xiaobao's stepmother. She didn't have the right to mind. Then why? It seemed that Lu Tingxiao would not let her go until he got to the bottom of this. Ning Xi touched her forehead helplessly, took a deep breath and said, Mr. Lu, marriage is not a child's play. Whether it's for repayment or for other reasons, we just met. Do you know me? Do you know about my past? I want to marry the current you. Your past has nothing to do with me. Lu Tingxiao's answer was indeed domineering. Ning Xi's face gradually turned cold. But for me, the past is also a part of me. I can't separate my past and marry you. Mr. Lu, people who walk different paths can't make plans together. I sincerely suggest that you take back that absurd idea. What followed was a cold silence. Just when Ning Xi thought that the other party would fly into a rage after being rejected again, Ning Xi's expression changed. Lu Tingxiao said calmly, I understand. Ning Xi finally relaxed. Then I'm going to bed. Good night. Good night. The man looked at her frail back, his gaze as deep as the sea. What didn't change was the temperature at the bottom of the sea. Chapter 16. Words 1051 Update 22/07/018 hours 31 minutes and 1 second. The next morning, Ning Xi was woken up by the man's deep voice in the living room. Hearing the footsteps behind him, Lu Tingxiao put down his phone and said gently, Did I wake you up? Ning Xi stared at the man in front of her, her eyes wide open. Lu Tingxiao wasn't wearing a shirt and the first thing she saw when he pushed open the door was the color of skin. She touched her nose. Fortunately, she hadn't embarrassed herself. Lu Tingxiao didn't seem to notice her expression. He calmly picked up his shirt from the sofa and put it on. As he buttoned it, he said, I have something urgent to attend to at the company. Please wake Xiaobao up. Oh, okay. Ning Xi nodded and went to wake Xiaobao up. In the end, before she could call for help, she turned around and saw a soft and adorable Pikachu standing at the bedroom door. It was staring unblinkingly at its biological father, Lu Tingxiao, with a very displeased expression. Xiaobao, go change your clothes. Lu Tingxiao put on his coat and ordered his son. The only response he got was a bang, and the bedroom door was slammed shut. Ruthlessly. Lu Tingxiao. Ning Xi. Lu Tingxiao went to open the door but it was locked from the inside. He looked at Ning Xi. Do you have the key? Ning Xi shook her head awkwardly. Yes, but the key is in the room. Lu Tingxiao pinched his forehead and said coldly, Lu Qingyu, I'll give you 3 minutes. If you don't come out by then, don't even think about coming here again. 3 minutes passed and there was no sound inside. Lu Qingyu, come out. If I force you out, I won't be so nice to you. There was still no response. The little bun didn't give his father any face. Ning Xi wanted to laugh but didn't dare. I have work to do later. It's okay to let Xiaobao stay here for a while. Lu Tingxiao's face darkened. He took out his phone and was about to make a call. Ning Xi glanced at him secretly and was speechless when she saw that he was calling the psychiatrist. Wasn't he making a mountain out of a molehill by calling the psychiatrist for such a small matter? Ning Xi coughed and suggested, why don't I have a try? Lu Tingxiao hesitated for a moment and nodded. Ning Xi leaned against the door and said gently, Xiaobao, I have to go to work later and can't take care of you. Can you go home with dad first? There was still no response from inside. How about this, let's exchange phone numbers and keep in touch. You can also video call me? There seemed to be some hesitant footsteps coming from inside. If Auntie is late, the leader will scold me. Our leader is very fierce. Auntie is so pitiful. The door opened with a click. Lu Tingxiao, who was prepared for a protracted battle, was startled. He looked at the woman beside him with a complicated gaze. She only said 3 sentences, and Xiaobao obediently came out. The last time Xiaobao locked himself in the attic on the balcony like this, the family of 4, the butler, the servants, the psychiatrist, and even the negotiation experts were all dispatched. They tried to persuade him for an entire afternoon, but to no avail. In the end, they had no choice but to tear down the door. As a result, the little fellow ignored them for an entire month. Of course, Ning Xi didn't know about this. She just felt that this child was so obedient. She picked up the gloomy little bun who couldn't bear to see her scolded and praised. Little Bao is so obedient. Thank you, baby. Little bun, who was praised, felt a little better. He silently handed her a piece of paper with a string of numbers written on it. Ning Xi took the paper and said, Hey, is this your phone number? Okay, I'll save it. I'll call you when I'm done. Lu Tingxiao was a little puzzled. Xiaobao didn't have a phone. Where did he get his phone number? Taking advantage of his height, he took a look. It was his phone number. Not bad, he was indeed his biological son. Words 1221 Update 22/07/018 hours 31 minutes and 1 second. At Starlight Entertainment. In the office, Cheng Li was exasperated. Ning Xi is the second female lead in the audition. The second female lead. Ning Xi frowned when she heard that. Wasn't she playing a small role in some unknown drama? How could she have had time to audition? I was also surprised. After asking, I learned that during the audition for the first female lead yesterday, when the judges were about to leave after the audition, they accidentally saw Ning Xi and felt that she was very suitable for the second female lead, so they decided on the role at first sight. No wonder you are so wary of her. Ning Xi is so scheming. She was still loitering in front of the judges after the audition. I wonder who she is trying to seduce. There was something Qingli didn't dare to say. Ning Xi was so beautiful that she wouldn't be surprised if the judges chose her at a glance. When she had signed Ning Xi, she had planned to focus on training her, but Ning Xi had suddenly appeared out of nowhere. One was a powerless newcomer, while the other was a popular actress with a powerful family background. Everyone knew how to choose. In the entertainment industry, being beautiful was not the only thing that mattered. Ning Xi looked gloomy. Although she is not the first female lead, this film is a big production. It was obvious that she didn't want Ning Xi to get the role. Qingli was a bit embarrassed. I'm afraid it will be a bit troublesome this time. After all, the company has invested a lot of money in this film. The boss was very happy to know that the first female lead and the second female lead have been chosen by our company. It would be good if our company could have someone more suitable than Ning Xi to replace her, but the last audition was a complete failure, so there is no reason to replace Ning Xi. Ning Xi seemed to have thought of something, but she suddenly calmed down. She stroked her exquisitely trimmed nails and sneered, forget it. Since she's in a hurry to act as a vixen, let her be. Ha, the seductress who brings disaster to the country is indeed suitable for her. Ning Xi soon received a call from Qingli, who informed her that the second female lead in the world had been confirmed and that she should prepare for it. In the world, the first female lead helped the male lead ascend the throne with all kinds of wisdom and bravery, while the second female lead was despised by all kinds of sinister and cunning tricks. In the end, she was forced to jump off a cliff by the first female lead. With such a character setting, it was no wonder that Ning Xi was so generous this time and did not destroy it. Although she got the role of the second female lead in Under the Heavens, she still had to finish what she had to do. Ning Xi still had a filming set to run today. Her role was that of a mistress who stole someone else's husband. She only had 5 minutes of filming left. She would be surrounded and beaten up by a group of people for 5 minutes under the bright sun. In reality, it took more than 2 hours to finish acting these 5 minutes. Because the extras were inexperienced, their actions and expressions were not uniform, so she had to be beaten repeatedly. Back home, Ning Xi casually turned on the TV and lay down on the sofa, exhausted. After lying down for a while, she felt as if she had forgotten something. At this time, the television was broadcasting the news, and a familiar figure appeared on the screen. This unparalleled beauty, these broad shoulders, narrow hips, and long legs, this ascetic temperament from 8,000 meters above sea level, who else could it be but Little Bun's father, Lu Tingxiao? Lu Tingxiao seemed to be at a signing ceremony, shaking hands with a few foreigners. The host excitedly introduced that Lu Group had joined hands with the Italian DR brand to enter the European market, and their market value might double. Ning Xi finally remembered that she had forgotten to call Xiaobao. At the Platinum Gold Palace, the two elders of the Lu family had returned from abroad, and the family of 5 was having a meal together. The big project that Lu Group had been negotiating for 3 years had finally been settled. Old Master Lu was very happy and expressed high praise and encouragement to Lu Tingxiao. He even praised Lu Jingli. However, at the end of the speech, the main point came. The gist of it was that work was important, but his precious grandson was even more important. Old Master Lu Tingxiao, work is important, but you can't neglect Xiaobao. You're done with work now, so spend more time with Xiaobao. Old Madam Lu, if you really don't have time, then find someone to help you take care of him. Xiaobao is already so big, you should also consider your own personal issues. Old Master Lu, your mother is right. Lu Jingli secretly gave his brother a look. Look, our parents are starting to put on a show again. Lu Tingxiao buried his head in his food and did not say a word. Lu Xiaobao held his phone and did not move. Words 895 update 22/07/018 hours 31 minutes and 2 seconds. Old Madam Lu was extremely worried when she saw the big and small wooden stakes. Tingxiao, did you hear what I said? And what's wrong with Xiaobao? He hasn't eaten anything all night and has been holding his phone like a treasure? Lu Jingli chewed on the sweet and sour pork and mumbled, Xiaobao is waiting for a pretty auntie's call. Old Madam Lu was confused. What pretty auntie? Lu Jingli waved his hand. Mom, Dad, don't worry. My brother already has someone he likes. Old Madam Lu was still shocked. Is what you said true? Second brother, don't lie to us. Old Master Lu put down his chopsticks solemnly and looked at Lu Jingli inquiringly. Why would I lie to you? It's true. Ask my brother yourself if you don't believe me. Lu Jingli said as he looked at his brother. Tingxiao, is what Jingli said true? Old Master Lu asked in a low voice. Tingxiao, say something. Old Madam Lu urged. Lu Tingxiao said, yes. Old Madam Lu was anxious and after waiting for a long time, she heard only a yes. She was furious. You brat? Can't you say one more word? Why is it so hard to talk to you? Lu Tingxiao said, it's true. Old Master Lu was speechless. All right, he really only said one more word. Old Madam Lu was still worried and asked hesitantly, Tingxiao, is the person you like a girl or a boy? Lu Tingxiao's face darkened and he said through gritted teeth, a girl. Lu Jingli laughed so hard he almost fell off his chair. Of course it's a girl. And a very pretty girl. Xiao Bao likes her very much too. Xiao Bao has been waiting for her call. Old Madame Lu was so happy that she cried. Our ancestors have blessed us. Our ancestors have blessed us. Tingxiao, which family does she belong to? How old is she? Where does she come from? What does she do? Who are her family members? Why didn't you tell us? Lu Jingli hurriedly interrupted her. Mom, calm down. We didn't tell you because we didn't want you to interfere and end up making a fool of yourself. If they knew Ning Xi's real identity and that she had a bad reputation in the entertainment circle, the whole thing would be ruined. At this moment, old Master Lu spoke up. Tingxiao can't be wrong if he has his eyes on someone. Don't worry too much. What do you mean I'm worried? Don't tell me you're not worried? Who was the one who was so worried that he couldn't sleep in the middle of the night and smoked on the balcony? Old Madame Lu mercilessly exposed her husband. However, after hearing her husband's words, she felt a lot more at ease. Tingxiao has such high standards. The woman he chooses will definitely not be bad. Most importantly, Xiaobao likes her too. As soon as he finished speaking, the phone that Xiaobao had been holding for the whole night suddenly rang. This was Lu Tingxiao's private number. Not many people knew about it. Lu Jingli leaned over and saw that it was indeed Ning Xi's number. Is it that girl? Old Madame Lu asked excitedly, as if she was about to meet her daughter-in-law. Lu Jingli nodded repeatedly and answered the call for Xiaobao. Xiaobao didn't know how to use a cell phone very well. Lu Tingxiao had bought a cell phone for him before, but he didn't like it and had thrown it away somewhere. At that moment, everyone's attention was focused on Xiaobao's cell phone. Lu Jingli was the most thick-skinned and he leaned over to the phone to eavesdrop. Words 923 update 22/07/018 hours 31 minutes and 2 seconds. Ning Xi hesitated for a long time before she finally dialed the number. Because of what had happened 5 years ago, she actually didn't like children and was even a little averse to approaching them. That would bring back some bad memories, such as the child she had lost. That child had carried her most gentle expectations, but also represented her dirtiest past. For some reason, Little Bun didn't make her feel uncomfortable at all. Instead, she liked him from the bottom of her heart and couldn't help but want to get close to him. How strange. Hello, hello. The call connected, but there was no sound. Ning Xi knew that it must be Xiaobao, so she chuckled. It's Xiaobao, right? Sorry, Auntie just finished work and only remembered to call you now. Xiaobao didn't know how to speak and couldn't respond to her, so Ning Xi could only talk to herself. Baby, have you eaten yet? You're too skinny, you have to eat more, okay? Children can't be picky about food, that way they can grow faster, and Chubby is so cute. Although you're already cute enough now. Oh yeah, I just saw your father on TV. He closed a big deal. That's amazing, congratulate him for me. 10 minutes later, Xiaobao put down his phone and took out the writing board that he hadn't used for a long time. Stroke by stroke, he wrote, "Congratulations, congratulations." Although Xiaobao didn't know how to speak, he was good at both Chinese and English. He didn't like writing Chinese, so he wrote English most of the time. But he hadn't written in a long time, because he didn't express himself at all. Seeing this, the two elders were stunned. Lu Jingli was calm because he had seen it before. Lu Tingxiao vaguely heard what Ning Xi said on the phone. Looking at the word, a rare smile appeared on his icy face, and he touched his son's little head. Thank you. After Xiaobao finished writing, he started eating in an extremely serious manner. He even ate the carrot that he hated the most. At this moment, the two elders were still in a daze. Boss seemed to have smiled just now. My good grandson wrote on his own, my good grandson ate on his own, and my good grandson even ate a carrot. Old Madame Lu finally came back to her senses and asked impatiently, Jingli, what did that girl say to Xiaobao on the phone just now? Old Master Lu's face was also filled with curiosity. Lu Jingli, who was surrounded by his parents, said slowly, nothing much. She just told Xiaobao to eat more and not be picky. She also asked Xiaobao to congratulate my brother on her behalf. Old Madame Lu's face was filled with disbelief. That's it. Lu Jingli shrugged. What else can I do? Old Master Lu looked very pleased. This girl has done more with one phone call than Xiaobao's psychiatrist can do in a year. That's right. Old Madame Lu was pleasantly surprised. This girl is really not bad. Tingxiao, you must make good use of her. Lu Tingxiao, MHM. Old Madame Lu looked at her eldest son in disdain and turned to her youngest son. Second son, your brother is a blockhead. How would he know how to woo girls? You must help him, all right. Now you know how useful I am. Lu Jingli snorted proudly. Don't worry, I'll definitely use all my knowledge to help my brother. But let's make an agreement. Both of you are not allowed to interfere. You should know that at this stage, it's the easiest thing for a parent to interfere. The two elders naturally responded, we know, we won't ask. Words 989 update 22/07/018 hours 31 minutes and 2 seconds. After dinner, the two elders had just left when Lu Jingli wagged his big tail and went to his brother to claim credit. Brother, wasn't I awesome just now? Halfway through wagging his tail, a small object was thrown from his brother's hand towards him with a whoosh. Lu Jingli caught it. What's that? When he saw it clearly, his eyes widened. It was a car key. The only one in the world that he had coveted for a long time, the 100-year commemorative Bugatti sports car. Oh, my dear baby? Lu Jingli hugged the car key and kissed it. Brother, I love you. Previously, His brother had refused to give it to him, but this time, he had thrown it to him after saying a few words to his parents. Ning Xi's position in his brother's heart was higher than he had imagined. The more Lu Jingli thought about it, the more worried he became. Brother, are you sure it's Ning Xi? And it's not for fun, but for marriage? Marriage. Lu Tingxiao's tone left no room for a second possibility. Lu Jingli sighed when he heard that. Then, as an experienced person, he said earnestly, then I have to remind you to be mentally prepared. Chasing a woman is like playing a game, there are different levels of difficulty. Easy mode, normal mode, hard mode, hell mode. And Ning Xi is definitely on the ground. Prison? Mode? Style? Every woman has a weakness, but what about Ning Xi? Do you use money? From the fact that she looks so miserable, she definitely doesn't accept being kept and sleeping around. Love? Look at how many men she dumped when she was abroad. Her ex-boyfriends are all over the entertainment industry, and all of them are not ordinary people. When I saw that list, I was convinced. I've never been convinced by anyone in this aspect. As for using a child, don't even think about marrying her. She's focused on her career and has no intention of having a child. Even if I were to do it myself, it would most likely be GA over. A newbie like you with a negative EQ is practically giving away experience. Lu Tingxiao looked at him coldly. 100%. Lu Jingli's mouth twitched. Okay, I'll definitely GA over. Don't pay attention to these small details, okay? In short, my final conclusion is, I bet Ning Xi is the same as me, a true believer of not marrying and not having children. This kind of person was cynical about relationships and regarded freedom as life. If you want to play, it's easy. Want to get married? Extremely difficult? That's because you haven't met someone who's willing to marry you and give birth to a life together. The moonlight spilled into the room through the window. Lu Tingxiao's usually cold and stiff face now looked a little gentle. Lu Jingli counted how many words his brother had said this time, his face full of disbelief. People in love are really different. Even an emotional idiot can teach me a lesson? Well, but what you said does make sense. What do you think? Do you need any help from your dear brother? Lu Tingxiao gave him 3 words, no need. Lu Jingli panicked. Why wouldn't I need it? Picking up girls is different from working in the business world. Think about it carefully. Do you really not need a smart, wise, and handsome coach to pick up girls? Lu Jingli was trying his best to promote himself when the door to the study was suddenly pushed open with a creak. The two of them turned their heads at the same time. Unexpectedly, he saw Xiaobao in pajamas at the door. Surprise flashed across Lu Tingxiao's eyes. Xiaobao. Lu Jingli's face was also full of surprise. Xiaobao actually appeared outside of his own bedroom at this time. Words 950 update 22/07/018 hours 31 minutes and 3 seconds. One had to know that Xiaobao was extremely fond of silence. Usually, he would hide in his room alone after he finished eating. The servants in the house had to return to their rooms after they were done with their work. They were not allowed to make a single sound. Otherwise, Xiaobao would become extremely agitated and even lose control if he was slightly disturbed. Old Madame Lu just felt sorry for Xiaobao and went into his room a few times to bring him food, but Xiaobao locked himself in the attic. Because of this, old Madame Lu didn't dare to move in with them even though they loved Xiaobao so much. But now, Xiaobao actually came out of his own accord. Not only that, Xiaobao ran straight to Lu Tingxiao and hugged his leg. Lu Jingli burst into laughter. What are you doing, Xiaobao? Hugging his leg? Lu Tingxiao looked down at his son and knew what he wanted to do at a glance. He refused without hesitation. No, you already went there last night. So Xiaobao's eyes fell on his mobile phone. You already called me once during dinner? Lu Tingxiao refused again. Lu Jingli, who was at the side, understood. So the little fellow missed Ning Xi. Xiaobao saw that his papa couldn't be persuaded, so he ran over to Lu Jingli and used the same trick again, hugging his leg. Lu Jingli was flattered. No, baby, don't do this. You know your second uncle can't stand you acting cute. Although the little baby was usually dull, once he needed someone's help, his expression and demeanor would be so adorable that you would want to die. When he raised his small head and looked at you with those big eyes that were as beautiful as the stars, you simply wanted to pluck the stars from the sky for him. The only one in the family who could resist this trick was Lu Tingxiao. Lu Jingli spread out his hands helplessly. Xiaobao, it's useless to act cute. I can't beat your father. As soon as he finished speaking, Xiaobao immediately let go of Lu Jingli. He was very decisive. Seeing the little boy's expression as if he had been separated by his heartless parents, Lu Jingli leaned against the wall and laughed. Hey, Xiaobao, you don't have to be so anxious. There's a saying that if two people love each other for a long time, they won't stay together day and night. When your father marries Aunt Xioxi, you'll see her every day. Persuasion failed. The little guy ran out of the door. Lu Jingli shrugged. What should we do? He ate a lot tonight, Lu Tingxiao said. In other words, he wouldn't be able to use the hunger strike for the time being. Lu Jingli calmed down after hearing his brother's words. However, they had still underestimated Xiaobao. He was just a kid, so he didn't need any strategy. All he needed was to make a scene. As soon as he finished speaking, a loud bang came from the living room downstairs. Lu Jingli and his brother looked at each other, and the two of them quickly ran downstairs. In just a short while, the living room downstairs was already in a mess. In the corner, the antique vase that was as tall as a person had fallen to the ground and shattered into pieces. Everything that could be pushed over or broken was not spared. Lu Tingxiao. Usually, Lu Tingxiao would only call out Xiaobeo's full name when he was really angry. Even Lu Jingli couldn't stand it, let alone Xiaobeo. Xiaobeo trembled with fear at his father's terrible face, but he became even more emotional. He screamed at the top of his lungs and ran around to destroy things. Lu Jingli hurriedly chased after him, but he didn't dare to run too fast. There were so many pieces on the ground, and if he accidentally fell on them, the consequences would be disastrous. Brother, we can't go on like this. Let's ask Ning Xi to come here. Don't. Lu Tingxiao scolded. Lu Jingli tried to persuade him. Brother, Xiaobeo is still a child. He is not your subordinate. You are too strict with him. What's wrong with spoiling him a little? Every child is willful and mischievous. It's not your place to criticize my way of education. Lu Tingxiao's face was as cold as frost. It seemed that he had made up his mind not to encourage Xiaobeo's bad habit of making trouble to achieve his goal. Lu Jingli was in a dilemma between the father and son. It was really a headache. If things got out of hand and alerted his parents, the fact that he took Xiaobeo to the bar would probably be exposed. God, someone come and save him? While Lu Tingxiao went to catch Xiaobeo, Lu Jingli quickly took out his cell phone and secretly called Ning Xi. At night, Ning Xi was reading the script at home and chatting with someone on the internet. Dirty Monster King, Ning Xi, can you change your non-mainstream QQ name? It's so annoying. Moaning and moaning, isn't the Dirty Demon King an eyesore? How dare you say that to me? Dirty Monster King, ahem, I will return to China next month. Pick me up at the airport? No, I don't have time. Dirty Monster King, pick me up? I said I don't have time. Dirty Monster King, are you coming or not? The other party doesn't want to talk to you and throws a dog at you. Dirty Monster King, the other party caught your dog and beat it up. The dog's heart feels like being pricked by a needle. Dirty Monster King, F***ck? Why are you dirtier than me? And who the F***ck is a needle? You dirted me first. I don't want to talk to you. I want to read the script. Dirty Monster King, she is just a supporting actress. What's so interesting about it? We had a good relationship. Do you really want to be so heartless? There are so many people who have a good relationship with me. Who do you think you are? Dirty Monster King, Ning Xi? Wait and see. Ning Xi turned off the computer and concentrated on reading the script. After a while, her cell phone suddenly rang. It was a strange number. She was worried that it was a call from the crew, so she picked it up immediately. Hey, Ning Xi, help. You are. I'm Lu Jingli. Come to the palace immediately. Something's happened to Xiaobao. What? What happened to Xiaobeo? Ning Xi's heart immediately tightened. Anyway, it's urgent. Hurry over. Brother, come down. The child is still young. Xiaobao, you can't fall. Lu Jingli made it sound so serious, and the sound of things falling and breaking came from the other end of the phone. Ning Xi became even more nervous. She hurriedly changed her clothes and answered, I'll be right there. She didn't know what was wrong with her, but she couldn't sit still the moment she heard that Xiaobeo was in trouble. Even though they had only known each other for a few days, he had been unable to let go of her. It was quite a distance away from the palace and it would take at least 40 minutes to get there by taxi. Ning Xi was worried that something might happen during such a long time, so she pushed her motorcycle out of the garage and rushed there at lightning speed. It was supposed to take 40 minutes, but it only took Ning Xi 10 minutes to get there. Lu Jingli must have informed the security guard. After Ning Xi gave him her name, the security guard let her in directly. When she arrived at Villa number 8, there was a maid waiting outside to show her the way. Words 896 update 22/07/018 hours 31 minutes and 3 seconds. For the convenience of riding, Ning Xi was wearing a tight black leather jacket and trousers. She hurried over and took off her helmet and gloves. Her long hair cascaded over her shoulders like a waterfall. She looked handsome and arrogant. Lu Jingli almost couldn't help but whistle when he saw her in this form. Lu Tingxiao, do you really think I don't dare to hurt you? In the corner of the living room, Lu Tingxiao grabbed his son who had nowhere to run. The little boy struggled violently in his arms, like an extremely angry little beast, crazily flashing his tender little claws. No. Ning Xi rushed over and snatched Xiaobeo away. Xiaobeo looked up at her and was stunned for a second. Then his big eyes turned red and he plunged into Ning Xi's arms, clinging to her and never letting go. Looking at the little boy who was so cute and soft yesterday, but now his eyes were full of fear and he was trembling all over, Ning Xi felt so sorry for him. She was so angry that she couldn't care less about the terrible boss and said, Mr. Lu, I know I'm in no position to say anything as an outsider, but I still want to say that your way of education is really problematic. Children need warmth at such a young age. Besides, Xiaobeo's situation is special. He has been stimulated and he doesn't have a mother by his side. You should be more patient and tolerant to him. How can you be so fierce to him? Don't you see how scared he is? You even wanted to fight with him? Lu Tingxiao said, it's my fault. Lu Jingli. Haha. Lu Jingli chuckled as he listened to his brother's clean admission of his mistake. When I said there was something wrong with your way of education, you just scolded me in the face. Ning Xi said you were so obedient? After Ning Xi came, Xiaobeo was like a puppy that had seen its owner. He was very obedient, completely different from the crazy lion cub just now. He obediently let Ning Xi lead him back to the room without moving a muscle. On the sofa, Ning Xi gently touched Xiaobao's head to comfort him. What happened? Wasn't he fine this morning? Lu Jingli sighed. What else could it be? Xiaobao missed you and wanted to see you, but my brother wouldn't let him. I wanted to call you, but my brother didn't let me. He didn't want to disturb you. In the end, Xiaobao started to cause a ruckus. He ran around and smashed everything in the living room. My brother didn't want to indulge his bad habit, and the two of them had a falling out. Then, it became like what you saw when you came. Just because you won't see me or call me. Ning Xi found it hard to understand. Although Lu Tingxiao had said that Xiaobao was relying on her, was her influence really that great? What do you think? You're underestimating your own influence? Seeing that she was confused, Lu Jingli listed them out for her. Remember that day in the warehouse? When you fainted, Xiaobao didn't allow anyone to touch you. In the end, it was my brother who personally carried you to the hospital. Ning Xi subconsciously glanced at Lu Tingxiao. Lu Tingxiao carried her to the hospital? Also, at the hospital, when Xiaobao woke up and saw that you weren't there, he thought that you were dead. He went berserk on the spot and almost jumped off the building. My brother showed him the note you left for Xiaobao, and only then did he calm down. Last night, in order to see you, Xiaobao went on a hunger strike and threatened my brother. As for tonight, because of your call, he ate too much and couldn't use the all-purpose hunger strike, so he did this. Ate too much? Tonight, she did tell Xiaobao to eat more on the phone. How could it be her fault? Lu Jingli's words contained so much information that it took Ning Xi a long time to digest it. She looked at Xiaobao, who was clinging to her. Xiaobao, did you smash things because you wanted to see me? Xiaobao nodded. Ning Xi frowned. Do you know it's wrong? Xiaobao shook his head. Ning Xi finally knew why Lu Tingxiao was so strict. He must have been spoiled too much at home and felt that everything should go according to his wishes. Ning Xi's eyes became serious. Auntie is telling you now that it's wrong. Only bad kids will do this. Don't do this again, okay? Xiaobao nodded. Lu Tingxiao's expression was indescribable. Although Xiaobao was naughty, he would do as long as he agreed. The psychiatrist had tried all kinds of methods to deal with Xiaobao's bad habit of going on hunger strike, locking himself up, and even smashing things, but Xiaobao didn't buy it at all. As for forced correction, the two old men at home were reluctant to do it. Every time, they would be obedient halfway through. Ning Xi's influence on Xiaobao seemed to be greater than he had imagined. Of course, he was naturally happy to see this happen. After Ning Xi finished reasoning with Xiaobao, she coaxed him to sleep softly. Well, can I change a song for you today? Xiaobao nodded obediently. Ahem, let me think what to sing. I got it. Calabash Brothers, 7 flowers on 1 vine, not afraid of wind and rain la 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 la. Lu Jingli, who was leaning against the door frame, staggered and almost fell. How could Xiaobao like such childish children's songs with his IQ? He found that the little boy was listening with relish. What was worse, his brother was also listening with relish. Finally coaxing Xiaobao to sleep, Ning Xi stretched. I've almost sung all the children's songs I've learned in my life. Lu Jingli didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Why do you have to sing children's songs? You can sing other songs too? These children's songs are shocking to me. Ning Xi tied up her long hair with the rubber band on her wrist and raised her bright almond-shaped eyes slightly. Other songs? Except for children's songs, all the other songs I know are not suitable for children. As soon as she finished speaking, Lu Tingxiao's mind instantly flashed with her soft and lingering dancing light stream. Lu Jingli was excited. Ha ha ha, really? What song? Sing it for me? Lu Tingxiao glanced at him. Lu Jingli was so frightened that he immediately behaved himself, silently cursing his brother for being so petty. You were nearby just now? Lu Tingxiao asked. Otherwise, she wouldn't have come so quickly. No, I'm at my apartment. I sped all the way here on my motorcycle. Hurry up, Ning Xi said proudly. No wonder he was dressed like this. Today's outfit was even more stunning than yesterday's. Yesterday, she was like a fairy that adhered to the rules, but today, she was like a free and unrestrained fairy. Very dangerous. Lu Tingxiao's face was full of disapproval. Then he glared at Lu Jingli, who had taken the liberty to call Ning Xi over. It's okay. I'm good at riding. Ning Xi waved her hand carelessly and yawned. Since Xiaobao is fine, I'll leave first. She was about to leave when Lu Tingxiao suddenly said, Miss Ning, I have a presumptuous request. Ning Xi immediately reverted to her cowardly self after her anger was depleted. She said respectfully, Mr. Lu, please tell me. I'll do it as long as it's within my power. The Lu family had influence in both the underworld, and Demon King Lu was someone who would fight with others over the slightest disagreement. Lu Tingxiao looked at his son in the room with a dignified expression. Last time at the bar, after he was accidentally locked in the warehouse, the shock Xiaobao received was far more serious than I imagined. Right now, only you can comfort him. Before Xiaobao's emotions recover, I hope that Miss Ning can temporarily move in for a period of time. After hearing Lu Tingxiao's words, Ning Xi was stunned. Huh? Move in? Here? Yes. Ning Xi scratched her head awkwardly. This isn't appropriate? If Xiaobao wants to see me, I can come and see him at any time. Lu Tingxiao pinched his eyebrows tiredly. There are too many uncertainties, especially at night. If something unexpected happens, it will be too dangerous for you to rush over like this. With my status, it's not convenient for me to bring Xiaobao to see you frequently. I know this is a difficult request, but as Xiaobao's father, I still want to fight for it. I hope you can agree. Ning Xi was having a headache. If Lu Tingxiao were to use his power to pressure her, she would definitely turn around and leave. However, with his status and identity, he was begging her so sincerely. Especially in front of such a peerless beauty, facing such a face, she really couldn't refuse. At this moment, Lu Jingli was staring at his own brother with a look of worship. Absolutely amazing? He really didn't expect that his brother would use such a high-end method to open up a bloody path to Ning Xi, turning a disadvantage into an advantage on the road to Ning Xi. Xiaobao's existence was not an obstacle to him, but his greatest help. Just at this time, a bang sound rang out, and the table lamp on the bedside table was knocked over. Xiaobao suddenly jumped off the bed with a panicked expression and rushed out. It was not until he saw Ning Xi that the fear in his eyes receded and he pounced on her legs like an arrow leaving the bowstring. The incomparable fear in his eyes was heart-wrenching. Ning Xi hurriedly squatted down. Baby, why are you awake? The little fellow buried his head in her body, and his soft little hands wrapped tightly around her neck, refusing to let go. Good boy, Auntie is here. Don't be afraid. Ning Xi patted the little boy's back and smelled the sweet milk fragrance of the little boy. She felt very complicated. She clearly hated to be near children, but why couldn't she hate Xiaobao? Ning Xi could only coax Xiaobao to sleep again, and then gently closed the door and walked out. The messy living room downstairs had been neatly cleaned up by the servants. No wonder they were servants of the Lu family. Not only were they efficient, but they were also well-trained. Although they were all curious about Ning Xi's arrival, no one looked at her more than once, nor did they dare to whisper to each other. They left quietly as soon as they finished their work. Seeing her come out, Lu Tingxiao just looked at her quietly, didn't say anything, and didn't give her any pressure. Ning Xi looked hesitant, but when she thought of how Xiaobao was tugging at the corner of her clothes, her heart softened in the end. She took a deep breath and said, "Okay, Mr. Lu, I'll help you. Take it as repayment for saving me before." Lu Tingxiao's expression relaxed. "Thank you. Xiaobao may wake up at any time. It seems that I can't leave tonight, but my things are still in the apartment." Ning Xi was in a dilemma. "Don't worry, I'll get someone to get it for you," Lu Tingxiao said and instructed the butler to send someone to make the arrangements. Lu Jingli, who hadn't said a word from the beginning to the end, was dumbfounded by this godlike development. Were they living together? Is there anything else? Lu Tingxiao gave Lu Jingli a sidelong glance. "I'll get lost right now." The light bulb that was despised by her own brother quickly left. Originally, he thought that Ning Xi's strength could crush him, but now it seemed that his brother was not easy to deal with either. He finally realized that it wasn't that his brother didn't know how to hit on girls, it was just that he hadn't broken the seal in the past 32 years. Lu Tingxiao brought Ning Xi into the room next to Xiaobao's bedroom. "You can live here from now on. What style do you like? I'll get someone to redecorate it." Ning Xi waved her hand hurriedly. "No need, I'll leave after a few days. It's not like I'll be staying here forever. It's too troublesome to redecorate it." "It's not troublesome at all." Lu Tingxiao took a bunch of keys from the butler and handed them to her. "This is the key to the house. You can go in and out as you please. The door is locked with a password. The password is 591,414. This is the key to the attic. You have to keep it close to your body. Xiaobao likes to take the key and hide inside. This is..." Seeing that Lu Tingxiao was about to give her the key to the safe, Ning Xi hurriedly interrupted him. "Wait a minute. Mr. Lu, you're too trusting of me? Aren't you afraid that I'll empty your house? What do you want? I'll get someone to help you," Lu Tingxiao said seriously. He wasn't joking at all. Cough, cough, cough. Ning Xi was defeated by Lu Tingxiao's train of thought and hurriedly explained, "I was just joking, joking." Lu Tingxiao was addicted to giving her keys and casually gave her another one. "It's not easy to get a taxi here and it's not convenient for you to work. You can take this car and drive it." Ning Xi, why? Why did she feel like she was a kept woman even though she was only staying for a short period of time? That's not right. If he was a kept woman, he should hide it outside. How could he give her all the keys to the main house and even his own son? Damn, this was clearly the déjà vu of a newlywed couple. She inexplicably recalled Lu Tingxiao's sudden marriage proposal when they first met. She thought that she understood men quite well, but the one in front of her was like a computer system with an advanced firewall installed. She couldn't see through him at all. She didn't know if it was a blessing or a curse for her to agree to stay. That night, because Xiao Bao's condition was really bad, Ning Xi directly accompanied him to sleep on his little bed just in case. Late at night, the room door was gently pushed open without a sound. The man walked in slowly and sat down on the edge of the bed. Under the dim yellow bedside light, the woman maintained the posture of patting Xiao Bao. Her breathing was light and her eyes were gentle. Her lips that were as tender as the cherry on a summer branch opened slightly, as if inviting him silently. After a while, that peaceful light suddenly cast a shadow. The man's figure slowly approached that dark red petal. At a distance where they could smell each other's breath, he could pluck it with just a slight movement. However, he suddenly restrained himself and stopped. His slightly cold kiss landed on the woman's forehead. "Ning Xi, we have a lot of time in the future." The next morning, Ning Xi thought that she could recognize her bed, but she didn't expect to sleep so well. She woke up naturally and didn't even have a dream. When she woke up, she found that Xiao Bao was already awake. The little fellow was sitting next to her with a book in his arms and reading it seriously. He didn't make a single sound. He was so obedient. She really couldn't imagine the little bun flipping out. Baby, good morning. Ning Xi sat up with the quilt in her arms and greeted him warmly. Xiao Bao immediately raised his head from his book in pleasant surprise. Although he did not speak, his expression did not change, but Ning Xi could clearly feel his good mood from his eyes that seemed to be able to speak. Ning Xi laughed and reached out to flick the messy ahog on little Bao's head. Auntie doesn't have work today, so I can stay at home with you for the whole day. As soon as he finished speaking, the little fellow was obviously even happier, and the corners of his mouth even curled up slightly. Ning Xi was so adorable that she couldn't help but hold his little face and rub it. Baby, smile more. You're so cute when you smile. After washing up, breakfast was already prepared downstairs. Ning Xi didn't see Lu Tingxiao, and the butler and servants didn't mention waiting for him, so Ning Xi guessed that he must have gone to the company. After breakfast, Ning Xi was still a little worried about how to take care of the child. What if she couldn't take good care of him? In the end, none of the things she worried about happened. In the morning, she curled up on the sofa to read a script, while Xiao Bao lay on the table next to her, engrossed in reading or drawing. The two of them did not disturb each other and got along very well. The servant only appeared once to deliver snacks and fruits, and her movements were very light, as if she was afraid of disturbing him. From the looks of it, Xiao Bao usually liked peace and quiet. Words 901 Update 22/07/018 hours 31 minutes and 4 seconds. In the corner, the old butler was silently watching the two people in the living room. He found that Ning Xi was not trying her best to please the young master as he had guessed, but was focused on reading the script the whole morning. The young master was reading paintings as usual, and there seemed to be nothing different. However, if one looked closely, he would steal glances at Ning Xi from time to time, and the expression on his little face was vivid and reassuring. Perhaps it was because a woman who was too beautiful always made people feel insecure. The old butler was worried at first sight of Ning Xi, for fear that the young master would be deceived by her. According to the current observation, she was quite well behaved, but he didn't know how long she could endure. There were so many women in the capital who were eyeing the position of Mrs. Lu covetously, thinking of ways to become Xiao Bao's stepmother. Because of this, there was even such a terrible incident 2 years ago, causing the young master. So this time, seeing that the young master trusted that woman so much, and that the second young master didn't stop him, and even the young master seemed to like that woman, he was really on tenterhooks and had to be on guard. Unknowingly, more than 2 hours passed. Ning Xi was almost done reading the script, and Xiao Bao's painting was also done. He carried it over and showed it to her. Ning Xi looked up, and her face was full of surprise. Is this a painting of me? She really couldn't tell that Xiao Bao looked so quiet, but his painting style was actually that of a Fauvist. The characteristics of Fauvist painters were that they liked to use bright and rich colors, and use straightforward and rough brushwork to create a strong picture effect to express the feelings they wanted to express. Although the proportions of the characters in this painting were strange and the structure was strange, it accurately captured the characteristics of the characters, so Ning Xi recognized herself at a glance. Xiao Bao nodded with the painting in his arms, looking a little nervous, as if he was worried that she wouldn't like it. It's really so beautiful. Can I take a picture of it and use it as the desktop of my phone? Ning Xi wasn't deliberately praising Xiao Bao, but she especially liked the Fauvist style, and liked the strong color contrast. And Xiao Bao's level was already at the level of a master, judging from her understanding of paintings. Xiao Bao pursed his lips shyly, and directly stuffed the painting into her arms. Ning Xi pointed to herself. You want to give it to me? Xiao Bao nodded. Thank you, I like it so much. Ning Xi hugged Little Bun and kissed him on his soft cheek. Little Bao's eye stared blankly for a moment, then his little face flushed red. His pair of dull eyes became even more lively. The adult and the child were getting along warmly when Ning Xi heard footsteps coming from above her head. She looked up in the direction of the voice and saw Lu Tingxiao walking down the stairs lazily. He was dressed in his home clothes and had a messy hairstyle that he had just woken up from a nap. Although Lu Tingxiao's usual abstinence look was charming, this lazy look was too different from his usual look, so it was even more lethal. It was simply hopelessly sexy. Ning Xi was in a daze for a long time before she reacted. Mr. Lu, you didn't go to work today. Wasn't it Monday today? Yes, I'm off today. Lu Tingxiao nodded. Ning Xi thought about it and felt it was no wonder. He had just finished a big deal, so it was normal for him to rest for a while. It turned out that Big Boss Lu also knew how to sleep in. Inexplicably, the distance between them became closer. It's Xiao Bao's first time drawing a portrait. Lu Tingxiao glanced at the painting in Ning Xi's hand. Really? That's an honor? Ning Xi was happy. What do you want for lunch? Lu Tingxiao asked. It seemed like she was not only staying here but also providing for her meals. Ning Xi was about to speak when her phone rang. It was Cheng Li. Was she going to arrange for her to play a small role again? Hello, Sister Cheng. Ning Xi, the world will be launching at Pearl Hotel at noon. Don't be late. What? Noon at noon? Noon today? Yes, today. Sister Cheng, why didn't you inform me in advance? It's almost 11 o'clock. Why not? Didn't I inform you an hour in advance? An hour? I might not even have enough time to get there, not to mention I have to change and put on makeup. That's your own business. Don't bother me. I'm very busy now. I'm hanging up. After saying that, he directly hung up the phone with a bang. Chang? F***CKU? Ning Xi threw her phone. Ning Xi was stunned. Xiao Bao was stunned. Lu Tingxiao was stunned too. Ning Xi wiped her face, wishing she could dig a hole and bury herself in it. She was so excited that she forgot that she was still in the Lu residence and that there was a beauty of the motherland beside her. She had no intention of pretending to be a lady in front of Lu Tingxiao, but it would be bad if she led Xiao Bao astray. Ahem, Xiao Bao, let's pretend we didn't hear it just now. You can't learn from Auntie and scold people because Auntie wasn't scolding people just now, Ning Xi explained seriously. Xiao Bao blinked and nodded, not understanding. Lu Tingxiao's eyes flashed with a smile. What's wrong? Ning Xi gritted her teeth. The launch of the world will start at noon today, but it's almost 11. My agent called to inform me that it will take at least 50 minutes to get to Pearl Hotel from here. Do I have to go on camera without makeup? Why not? You have enough makeup. Ning Xi was stunned for a moment. She did not expect Lu Tingxiao to be so eloquent. She scratched her head in embarrassment and said, Ahem, thank you for your praise, Master Xiao. However, out of politeness, I still have to put on some makeup. The most important thing is that I don't have any suitable clothes at the moment. Wait a moment. Lu Tingxiao raised his hand to indicate for her to calm down. Then, he took his phone and went to the yard to make a call. 10 minutes later, a man arrived, panting. Boss Lu, I've brought all the things you wanted. Shall we start now? The newcomer wore a pair of ripped jeans, a grey linen shirt, and a signature dark blue earring in his left ear. Ning Xi was surprised to find that the person was a familiar face. Of course, familiar face meant that Ning Xi knew him, but he didn't know Ning Xi. Arthur, the personal stylist of the movie queen Suyumo under Shenxi Entertainment who could turn something rotten into something magical. He was a big shot that a small shrimp like her could only watch from afar. This is? Ning Xi asked suspiciously. You don't know him? Lu Tingxiao asked. Of course I know the famous Arthur, but why did you ask him to come over? To style you, of course. Lu Tingxiao said matter-of-factly. Ning Xi was speechless. She whispered in his ear, You actually asked someone from Shenxi Entertainment to style me? Are you kidding me? Don't you know that I'm an artist from Starlight Entertainment? Shenxi Entertainment and Starlight Entertainment are sworn enemies, okay? So what? Lu Tingxiao looked like an overbearing CEO. So what? Ning Xi was speechless. Boss Lu, how can you help an artist from another company? Do you know your employees? It seemed that he didn't know her. She was not famous now, so he definitely didn't know her. She was really defeated by Lu Tingxiao. After all, Shenxi Entertainment is a subsidiary of your Lu Enterprises. Although Lu Jingli was in charge of Shenxi, the boss behind the scenes was Lu Group's CEO, Lu Tingxiao. Lu Group had been involved in the entertainment industry since 5 years ago, when it acquired Shenxi Entertainment and created an entertainment empire. Now it was as powerful as Starlight Entertainment, which had the longest history and was the current leader in the industry. So it was obvious how fierce the competition between the two companies was. Artists, agents, makeup artists, and stylists from both companies were at loggerheads. As long as there was a set, artists from both companies would definitely fight. Lu Tingxiao raised his hand and looked at his watch. The nanny car is at the door. You can do your makeup on the way there. It's not too late. It's up to you whether you want to go or not. Ning Xi felt so conflicted that her liver hurt. Finally, she gritted her teeth. Go. Since Lu Tingxiao didn't care, she didn't have to care. Seeing Lu Tingxiao following them, Ning Xi was surprised. Are you coming with us? Who else will drive? Besides, Xiao Bao wants to stay with you for a while. His tone was matter-of-fact, as if everything he said was the truth and she was asking stupid questions. Xiao Bao nodded. Okay. In the end, the four of them got into the nanny car together with Arthur. Lu Tingxiao didn't even change his clothes. He was still in his home clothes, driving in the front. Ning Xi and Arthur were in the back seat, and Xiao Bao was lying on the back of the seat, looking at them curiously. Arthur looked at Ning Xi carefully, and his eyes were full of admiration. Miss, your facial features are perfect, and your skin is very good. You don't need to do much. You just need to put on some light makeup. What kind of occasion are you going to attend today? Let me choose your outfit for you. Well, it's a movie launch ceremony. Ning Xi was afraid that he would beat her up if he found out she was an artist from Starlight Entertainment. Fortunately, Arthur didn't ask any more questions. He nodded and continued to do her makeup. When they arrived at the site of the booting ceremony, Ning Xi's full costume was just ready. Her timing was very precise. Lu Tingxiao turned off the engine and stopped the car. He rested his arms on the back of the seat and looked at the woman who had already done her makeup. How is it? Ning Xi asked nervously. Not bad. It wasn't easy for someone as harsh as Lu Tingxiao to say that it wasn't bad, not to mention that Xiao Bao was staring at her with a look of amazement. Ning Xi suddenly felt full of confidence, and then hugged Xiao Bao apologetically. Baby, I'm sorry for the slip of the tongue, but Auntie promises you that I will finish my work soon and come back to accompany you. Xiaobao reluctantly stayed in Ning Xi's arms for a while. Knowing that she was in a hurry, he quickly let go of her and waved at her. Looking at the two people behind her, one big and one small, Ning Xi's heart swelled, full. After fighting alone for so long, this was the first time he felt such warmth. After Ning Xi left, the driver was naturally Arthur. Arthur could no longer suppress his curiosity. As he drove, he asked carefully, "Boss, who was that lady just now? Is she a new artist hired by our company? Why haven't I seen it before?" Oh my god, their big boss actually had a woman by his side. This was big news. Lu Tingxiao tilted his chin and answered unhurriedly, "An artist from Starlight Entertainment. Arthur." At that moment, the expression on Arthur's face was as sullen as if he had eaten a pound of **T. "Boss? You actually want me to style an artist from Starlight Entertainment? Why did boss take the lead to betray the country and collude with the enemy? Even second young master would never look for an artist from Starlight Entertainment when looking for a lover. If it was second young master sitting here, he would definitely scold him righteously and angrily. But this was the devil, Lu Tingxiao. Therefore, he could only sulk until he died, not even daring to let out a fart. What made him even more depressed was that he suspected that this unknown artist from Starlight Entertainment would be their future lady boss, right? After all, this was a woman that even little prince treated with respect. Not simple. At the opening ceremony of the world, the main cast and crew were all present. There were flashes everywhere, and the media was everywhere. There was also a large group of fans who came after hearing the news. Most of the media was surrounding Ning Xi, who was playing the female lead, and Zhao Sishu, who was playing the male lead. One was the leading actress of Starlight, and the other was the best actor of the Academy Award. The combination of a handsome man and a beautiful woman was naturally eye-catching. "Swaluo, we all know that you and Sishu are working together as a couple this time. This is the second time you've worked together as a couple. I wonder if you'll fall for a man like Sishu in real life. Haha, Sishu is indeed very charming, but I won't. I don't have any extra heart for him anymore." As soon as she said that, all the media started to make a ruckus. A year ago, Ning Xi announced that she had a boyfriend, and all kinds of people tried to dig up the inside story. In the end, they found out that the other party was the son of Su Hongguang, the CEO of Yifeng Group. He had a high net worth and was handsome. He was a handsome and rich man, and everyone was envious of him. Although the fans were very sad, they were no longer as averse to their idols getting married and dating as they were in the past. Most of them still wished their idols to find a good man. Ning Xi popularity did not decrease after she announced her relationship. Instead, she kept up her popularity with topics like handsome and rich boyfriend and winner in life. Zhao Sishu, who was next to her, was also very good at picking up on the joke. He held his chest and pretended to be in pain. "Miss Shangguan, you're so cruel. I've given my heart to you." This time, Ning Xi was playing the female lead called Shangguan Yingrong, and Zhao Sishu was playing the role of a prince. When the reporters heard that, they all laughed and teased Zhao Sishu. The atmosphere was very lively. This time, other than the male and female leads, the second female lead was the most eye-catching. Therefore, Guo Qixin was also surrounded by a group of people. "Director Guo, why didn't I see the actress playing Meng Chang'e? Will she be here today?" "Of course. Rumor has it that even Jia Qingqing didn't succeed in the audition because you thought she wasn't beautiful enough. Is that true?" This question was clearly meant to stir up trouble. However, Director Guo was also a veteran, and his words were watertight. The role of Meng Chang'e does have high requirements for the actor's appearance, but appearance is not the only standard. Jia Qingqing's appearance is definitely not a problem, but it feels like there's still a certain gap between her and our requirements. I heard that the actor playing Meng Chang'e is a newcomer. Since the requirements for the role of Meng Chang'e are so high, will she be able to fully control the role if we use a newcomer rashly? What's going on today? Did I not give enough red packets? The reporters' questions were sharper, and all of them were targeted at the second female lead. Let's wait and see when our drama comes out. The reporters still refused to let go of this question and asked aggressively, "Director Guo, is the actor who plays Meng Chang'e more beautiful than Jia Qingqing?" It was not over yet? Yes? So what if she was prettier than Jia Qingqing? What beauty in 100 years? When you see Ning Xi, let's see if you still dare to boast about Jia Qingqing like this? Well, each has their own merits. You'll know when she's here. Guo Qixin was getting a little impatient from the questions. At this moment, he walked past a group of reporters and saw a person appearing at the end of the red carpet. He was stunned for 3 seconds before he came back to his senses. Then, he smiled and said, "Speak of the devil." After saying that, Guo Qixin looked like he was waiting for a good show. Sure enough, all the reporters looked in the direction pointed by Guo Qixin, and they were all stunned at first. Today, Ning Xi was wearing a red hollowed lace dress. The perfect design of the waist completely showed her charming waistline, and the neckline revealed her beautiful collarbone. This color was more difficult to handle than red, and it was made of lace. Although the design was extremely beautiful, ordinary people would look vulgar or shocking if they didn't wear it well. But this dress seemed to be made for Ning Xi, and it made her look bright and attractive, dazzling. When the stylist chose this dress for her, Ning Xi herself felt that she couldn't handle it, but she was convinced after she put it on. No wonder he was the gold digger of Shenxi media. His eyes were so sharp. They only met once, but he knew her better than she knew herself. As for walking on the red carpet, although it was the first time for Ning Xi to formally attend such an occasion, she was an actress after all. She had tried to figure out people in all kinds of industries, including big stars. She had played them several times, so it was not difficult for her to walk on the red carpet. Every step, every smile, every movement was just right, and she could accurately find the position of the camera and give the most beautiful expression. The reporters were stunned longer than director Guo, and it took them a long time to come to their senses. Was this Ning Xi who played Meng Chang'e? An unknown newcomer without any representative works? She's just too beautiful. There was no word to describe her. She was beautiful. They were all asking director Guo who was more beautiful between Jia Qingqing and Ning Xi just now. No wonder director Guo had a strange expression at that time. Their questions were simply ridiculous. In front of such a stunning beauty like Ning Xi, Jia Qingqing, who had always been famous for her beauty, was simply ordinary. Not only the appearance, but also the aura of this newcomer was very strong. She was not like a newcomer at all. Her gestures were elegant and generous, and even exuded a kind of innate nobility. Ning Xi walked to the center of the red carpet, made a few random poses for the media to take photos, and then turned around, picked up the signing pen on the tray, and signed on the wall. As soon as she turned around, there was another burst of exclamations and the sound of the shutter being pressed. The dress was designed to be backless, which was an important reason why the stylist had chosen it. Ning Xi's butterfly bone was too beautiful. It could be said that it was the sexiest and most seductive part of her body. It would be a waste if she didn't show it. In the past, most female stars liked to bare their breasts on the red carpet in order to attract attention, but Ning Xi had taken a different approach. She was much more sophisticated. After killing countless films, it was finally time for the interview. The friends of the reporters today were quite pitiful. This was because the questions they had prepared were, do you think you can control Meng Chang'e with your looks? Who do you think is more beautiful, you or Jia Qingqing? I heard that you were admitted as an exception. Is there any reason for that? Now, all these questions were no longer needed. Anyone who wasn't blind would know that there was no such thing as an audition. His face was too convincing. She was the most suitable Meng Chang'e. Therefore, the reporters began to ask questions on the spot. Miss Ning, may I ask if the clothes you're wearing were handmade by designer Karl Lagerfeld? Ning Xi was stunned. Is this a Karl Lagerfeld haute couture dress? How could she wear a dress worth millions of yuan so casually? How could Devil Lu be so unscrupulous? However, the more terrible thing was yet to come. Then the reporter listed the origins of all the things she was wearing one by one, and then asked, Miss Ning, is your stylist Arthur? How could he see that? He had sharp eyes. No, I must be mistaken. Fortunately, before Ning Xi could answer, the reporter denied his own question. He finally remembered that Ning Xi was an actress of Starlight, so how could the stylist be Arthur, the stylist of Suyumo of Shenqi Entertainment? Ning Xi breathed a sigh of relief. Fearing that they would ask similar questions again, she quickly said, after all, today is the opening ceremony of the world. Let's ask questions related to the movie. Then, Miss Ning, is this your first time acting? Someone in the crowd asked. Of course not. I've been on crews since I was in college, but I didn't have many scenes before, so no one knows me. Ning Xi answered truthfully, not minding that her resume was lacking. Since the media could find out everything, she might as well be humble and tell them. May I know what roles you've played before, Miss Ning? This was a normal question, but it was a little embarrassing for Ning Xi. But since the reporter had asked, she couldn't refuse to answer. I've played before. Ning Xi began to count the roles she had played after returning to China. During the 4 years she had been studying abroad, she had spent all her spare time on crews. She had played small roles in many famous dramas, and also had a lot of scenes. It wasn't easy for Ning Xi to have such a resume when foreigners generally didn't like to use Chinese actors. The reason why she didn't tell them about her experience abroad was because of the absurd love history she had when she first went abroad. Although they were all normal relationships that didn't violate morality, the identities of her ex-boyfriends were a little too eye-catching. The most important thing for her now was to have a presentable work. If there were all gossip about her as soon as she debuted, the public's attention would be focused on her private affairs. She might get some exposure for a while, but it wouldn't be good for her long-term development. Ning Xi had tried very hard to recall the roles she had played after returning to China, but the reporters were still speechless after she said them out. What kind of roles were they? Mistress, vixen, seductress, country bumpkin, brainless young lady, and even vicious old woman. What kind of hobbies did such a beautiful woman have? Why did she always like to play such ugly roles? Sure enough, someone asked, why are you always playing villains? Of course, Ning Xi wouldn't expose Chengli on such an occasion. She said calmly, I didn't pay attention to that. Acting is my most beloved career. Every role has its own life, regardless of whether it's big or small. Following that, the media asked a few more questions. Without any guidance from her manager, Ning Xi answered all of them perfectly. Guo Qishan, who was watching from the side, nodded repeatedly. This girl is really not bad. With such aptitude and EQ, he has only reached this stage after entering the industry for a year. Old Wang, what do you think? Producer Wang Taehe said meaningfully, either the higher UPS of Starlight Entertainment are blind, or... After saying that, she gave him a knowing look. It was clear that someone in Starshine was deliberately suppressing her. Guo Qishan's face was full of regret. What a pity for such a good seedling. Gold will always shine. Besides, doesn't she have a talent scout like you? Wang Taehe chuckled. At that moment, Ning Xue, who was standing at the side, was clenching her nails into her palms. Her face was so dark that she almost couldn't maintain her composure on such an occasion. She had deliberately asked Chengli to inform Ning Xi at the last minute so that she would make a fool of herself at the opening ceremony. In the end, Ning Xi would appear in the finale and amaze everyone. Damn it, Ning Xi's outfit alone cost a few million yuan. Where did she get so much money? Clothes and jewelry could be rented, but who styled her like this? She had underestimated this country bumpkin? Swallow, Ning Xi is your junior sister. What do you want to say about her playing the role of Meng Chang'e? At this time, a reporter asked Ning Swallow about Ning Xi's problem. Ning Swallow immediately put on a calm and elegant expression and said sincerely, my junior sister is very capable. I think she won't let us down. Ning Swallow praised Ning Xi for all the questions asked by the reporter. People who didn't know what was going on might think that she was helping her junior sister, but Ning Xi knew clearly that Ning Swallow was up to no good. She was not helping her, but trying to kill her. Before the game had even started, they had already praised her to the skies, causing the outside world to have such high expectations of her. If she was the slightest bit careless, she would be bombarded badly. Unfortunately, she would not give Ning Swallow a chance to make her evil plan come true. She had been conserving her energy for 5 years, so she was confident that everyone would be convinced of her acting skills. She wanted to kill me? Let's wait and see. The media interview finally came to an end. Ning Xi was about to take a breath, but was stopped by Cheng Li. Ning Xi, where did you get this outfit? Don't expect the company to pay for it. You are just a supporting actress. Who allowed you to be so high profile? Don't you know the rules? Cheng Li scolded her as soon as she came. Ning Xi combed her long black hair and said slowly, I didn't want to, but Sister Cheng insisted that I be the last one. You. Seeing that there were too many people around, Cheng Li suppressed her anger. Later when we're eating, you better behave yourself. Don't talk nonsense and embarrass the company. Shuai Luo's alcohol tolerance isn't good, remember to block the alcohol for her? Do you hear me? Ning Xi couldn't help sneering. Drink for her? Miss Chang, are you dreaming? She should be thankful that I didn't pour wine on her. Cheng Li and Ning Swallow were in cahoots, so it was useless for her to bow and scrape, so there was no need to listen to her. If she had been tough, Cheng Li would have scruples and wouldn't dare to go too far. Cheng Li was annoyed by her. Ning Xi, you've really grown up. You just got a supporting role. Don't you know what your surname is? Ning Xi had no patience to deal with her anymore, so she turned around and left. Cheng Li looked at Ning Xi's back as she left. Even though it was just a back view, it was enough to make people yearn for her. She felt inexplicably flustered. She had a premonition earlier that she might not be able to suppress Ning Xi. This woman was born to act. If she were to rise, her future achievements would definitely not be comparable to Ning Xueluo. But now that things had come to this, she could only ruthlessly suppress her, not giving her any chance to make a comeback. After the launch ceremony, there was a banquet. All the relevant crew members gathered together, chatting and eating while getting to know each other. The atmosphere was much more relaxed. Seeing Ning Xi, the scriptwriter Ye Linglong was the first to stand up and pull her to sit beside her. She was obviously very satisfied with her. Speaking of which, what a coincidence? The two beauties in our drama are from the same company, and they both have the surname Ning. Assistant Director Zhang Rui exclaimed. Ning Xi sneered in her heart. Hehe, what a coincidence. They were working under the same manager in the same company, but their encounters were vastly different. One was already the top star of Xinghui, while the other was still struggling at the bottom of the entertainment industry. As they spoke, the producer and director suddenly stood up and went to the door. It turned out that Ning Yehua, the chairman of Ning Enterprises, the biggest investor of the drama, had arrived. I didn't expect Chairman Ning to have the time to attend our opening ceremony. It's an honor. Director Guo greeted him warmly. Come, Chairman Ning, sit here. Producer Wang gave up his seat and let Ning Yehua sit next to Ning Swallow. Ning Yehua looked at Ning Swallow lovingly. Director Guo, you're too kind. Thank you for taking care of my daughter. Chairman Ning, your daughter is so outstanding that she doesn't need my help. She's always so busy. If it wasn't for this trip, I wouldn't have been able to see her. Ning Yehua said angrily. Although he had a straight face, there was no anger in his eyes. It was obvious that he doted on his daughter. Ha ha ha, you should be happy that Swallow is so hardworking. But Swallow, you're in the wrong. No matter how busy you are, you should come home often. Director Guo said angrily. I know, Director. It's my fault. Dad, don't be angry. I'll come home for dinner tomorrow night. Ning Swallow hugged Ning Yehua's arm like an obedient daughter. Look, the director had to speak up for me so that she could come back. Dad, there are so many people here. Give me some face. Yes, yes, yes. You're a big star now. I can't say anything. Ning Xi thought that she had been tempered into steel, but she didn't expect to see this scene. She felt suffocated and almost wanted to run away immediately. Fortunately, she couldn't control her heart, but she could cover it up perfectly on the surface. She discussed the plot with the scriptwriter calmly, as if she didn't notice the commotion in front of her. She could ignore it, but someone didn't think so. Ning Yehua's gaze was like a knife cutting her body. It was as if it was a shameful and disgusting thing to see her in public. Ning Xi finally left the room with the excuse of going to the bathroom. She walked to the window at the end of the corridor to get some fresh air. She took out a cigarette and lighter from her bag. She fumbled with the slender cigarette for a long time, but finally put it back. She was quitting smoking. It was the first time tonight that she couldn't control herself. The night wind blew on her face, making her feel a little better. At this moment, she suddenly heard footsteps behind her. Ning Xi's back stiffened, but when she turned around, the expression on her face seemed to be a mask. Impeccable. Chairman Ning is looking for me. Ning Yehua stared at her with a heavy gaze. He was extremely dissatisfied with her eye-catching attire. Ning Xi lowered her eyes and smiled. Well, Chairman Ning, you kept staring at me in the private room just now. Aren't you afraid that people will think that you have some bad ideas about me? After all, in the eyes of outsiders, he was an investor, and she was a beautiful female star. It was the easiest kind of relationship to have an ambiguous relationship. Bastard, what are you talking about? Ning Yehua was furious. Ning Xi raised her eyebrows. Of course it's human language. Does Director Ning not understand human language? You. Ning Yehua suddenly raised his palm. Before it could fall, it was firmly caught by a slender wrist. How could she give Ning Yehua another chance to hit her? He wasn't qualified. Ning Yehua was infuriated by her and pulled his hand back. Quit this role? Don't embarrass me. Ning Xi's face was cold. I got this role fair and square. How did I embarrass myself? You just want to do whatever Shuai Luo wants to do. You don't care what you look like or whether you can be compared with Shuai Luo. You want to enter the entertainment industry because you want people to dig out your scandals and embarrass the Ning family? Ning Yehua looked at her with disgust. Even now, some people in the circle still joked that Ning Yehua's daughter drank lemonade as if it was a drink, and that she went to a dinner party dressed in Xerox as a joke. If others knew about that, he would be ashamed. As soon as Ning Yehua finished his words, Ning Xi's face turned pale. That night, that strange man, that dead baby, that was her Achilles heel. Although the Ning family was afraid of losing face back then, and Ning Xuluo was also afraid that people would find out the truth, so she did not speak about it outside. However, it was still her deepest nightmare. I asked you to quit because of your pride. Since you don't want it, don't blame me for ignoring our father-daughter relationship. Oh, it turns out that we have a father-daughter relationship. Dad, Xioxi, what's wrong with you? Ning Xuluo's surprised voice came from behind. Seeing Ning Xue fall behind, Ning Yehua immediately put on a loving expression. It's okay. Don't worry about it. When you go back, ask your company to see if there are any other suitable candidates for the second female lead. In other words, he was going to replace Ning Xi. Ning Xuluo was delighted but pretended to be anxious. Dad, why? Xioxi has been chosen as the second female lead? She can at most play a small role. How can she play such an important role? I invested 30 million yuan in this film, not for her to play. But, Dad, it took Xioxi a lot of effort to get this film. Xuluo, you don't have to defend her. What did I tell you before? I told you not to help her, but you didn't listen. How dare you put in a good word for her in front of the reporters? Can she afford it? But Xioxi is your. Shut up. Don't ever mention it again. I've told you that you are my only daughter. Dad, don't be angry. I won't say it again, okay? I have something to do later. I have to go. When you have time, help me persuade her to stop being so stubborn. Ning Yehua gave Ning Xi a look that told her to behave herself, and then turned to leave with a cold face. After Ning Yehua left, the sympathy and cleverness on Ning Xuluo's face disappeared. She said innocently, Ningxi, I didn't mean to embarrass you this time. I wanted to give you a chance, but unfortunately. Ha! Ning Xi couldn't help but chuckle. Her laughter was filled with endless sorrow. Who would have thought that in the end, the one who made her fail at the last step and dragged her into the dust once again was actually her biological father. She had worked so hard, fought for so long, prepared for so long for this role. Gone just like that. It was already past 11 o'clock at night when the pre-launch meal was over. It was said that it was easy to get drunk when one was in a bad mood. It seemed to be true. Ning Xi felt that she didn't drink much tonight, but when she got up, she couldn't stand steadily, and her temples were throbbing. But at this moment, she saw the person who made her feel even worse. Suyan. Some of the crew members, especially the young ladies, exclaimed when they saw the newcomer. Ah, it was young Master So. So handsome? He's 100 times more handsome than the rumors say. He's here to pick up Ning Shuai Luo. I envy her so much. Her acting career is so smooth, her family is so good, and her boyfriend is so handsome. She's really a winner in life. This kind of person won at the starting line from the moment he was born. We can't be envious of him. Ning Xi leaned against the wall and stared blankly at the man who walked towards Ning Shuai Luo step by step. In recent years, the Su family had developed well, and Su Yan's status had also risen. Ning Xi could hardly see the shadow of her former self in him. The young man who was recuperating in the countryside because of lung disease, the elder brother Yan who held books and gently told her stories, had died in the torrent of time. Brother Yan, why are you here? Didn't I say that you don't have to pick me up? Ning Xuluo ran towards the man happily. I'm worried. It's raining outside. Su Yan took off his jacket and put it on her. Why are you wearing so little? Ning Xuluo looked sweet. Seriously, I'm already an adult, yet you still treat me like a child. Ning Xi leaned against the cold wall, feeling like she had just been F***ed. She had been watching Ning Xuluo show off their affection for each other that night. She had been showing off and snatching things from her. Ning Xuluo purposely held Su Yan's arm and walked in front of her. She said enthusiastically, little junior sister, I think you're drunk. Why don't you come with us? I'll get my boyfriend to give you a lift. Ning Xuluo emphasized the word boyfriend. Only then did Su Yan realize that Ning Xi was behind him. The moment he saw the girl, his pupils shrank. Ning Xi, It had been a long time since they last met. They had not seen each other even once when she was overseas. After returning to the country, he had only seen her a few times from afar when he went to the company to pick up Swoluo. He almost couldn't recognize her when he saw her at such a close distance. The little girl with braids and a flowery dress had grown into a woman who could make all men fall for her. Ning Swoluo's eyes flashed when she saw Suyan looking at Ning Xi in a daze. She pulled his arm and shook it. Brother Yan, what do you think? Suyan suddenly sobered up and nodded. Okay, let's go together. Junior sister Ning. Junior sister Ning? Are you okay? Ning Swoluo looked concerned. Ning Xi rubbed her forehead with the back of her hand. Under the influence of alcohol, her mind was getting muddled. Her heart was beating faster and faster, and her blood seemed to be flowing in reverse. There seemed to be a beast in her body, roaring and wanting to get out, wanting to tear the two hypocritical faces in front of her into pieces. No need. Before she completely lost control, Ning Xi staggered toward the direction of the bathroom. Looking at Ning Xi fleeing in panic, Ning Swoluo finally gave a carefree smile, but when she turned to Suyan, she immediately put on a very sad expression. Brother Yan, it seems that Xioxi is still unwilling to forgive me. I've tried very hard to make it up to her and have been doing my best to take care of her in the company, but she's still like this. I really don't know what to do. Don't mind her. That's just how Xioxi is. She'll forgive you after a while. Suyan comforted her softly. Downstairs of the hotel, a group of young girls from the crew were excitedly studying the luxury car that Suyan had driven over. I just did a search. This Maserati costs at least 10 million. It's too extravagant. I also want to find a rich boyfriend. How many years would I have to struggle less? The most important thing is that he's handsome. There are many celebrities who have climbed up the social ladder, but all of them are Mediterranean men with big bellies. Just looking at them makes me sick. While they were gossiping, Suyan and Ning Swoluo walked out of the hotel together. The handsome man and the pretty woman stood side by side, and it was very pleasing to the eye. Everyone watched enviously as Ning Xue, with Suyan's coat on her shoulder, fell into the luxury car. They were still reminiscing and sighing even when the car was out of sight. Not long after the car left, suddenly, a sweet sound of an engine came galloping over, accompanied by a silver-white shadow of a car. A sports car at such a high speed steadily stopped at the entrance of the hotel. Most importantly, this car was so f***ing cool. The handsome low chassis model, the smooth body, the cool scissor door, and the texture was like a work of art. Most importantly, the price. Oh my god, Bugatti Veyron Supersport, the most expensive supercar in the world. A conservative estimate is more than 100 million. Oh my god. Which god of wealth is this? Words 1068 update 22/07/018 hours 31 minutes and 6 seconds. In the car, Xiao Bao stared at his phone, which did not respond, with a bitter look on his face. Lu Tingxiao unbuckled his seatbelt. I'll go in and take a look. Wait for me here. Xiao Bao immediately grabbed the corner of his father's clothes, indicating that he wanted to go with them. Lu Tingxiao looked at his son. What if she gets drunk? Should I hug you or her? Little Bun puffed out his cheeks, expressing his dissatisfaction. He didn't need anyone to hug him. Lu Tingxiao's face darkened slightly. Unfortunately, I don't trust you after what happened last time. I can't believe you can take care of yourself. If you lose it again, even I won't be able to bear the consequences. Understand? Little Beizai drooped his head, his face full of loneliness. Realizing that his words were too harsh, Lu Tingxiao rubbed his son's head. I'll be back soon. Old Zhang, drive the car to the underground garage. Yes, young master. Under the excited gazes of the onlookers at the entrance of the hotel, the car door slowly opened and a man got out of the car. Dressed in an iron gray suit, he stood tall and had a powerful aura. It's Lu Tingxiao? Just now, he was still wondering which god of fortune this was. He didn't expect it to really be the god of fortune. Other than the god of fortune, who else could afford such a luxurious car? Compared to Master Xiao, the Su family is nothing. Oh my god, give me a hand. I'm so excited that I'm about to faint. I've only seen it once in a magazine. I didn't expect to see it in person here. I really want to go up and get an autograph. Sign on my underwear. Those little fresh meats and best actor awards can only kneel in front of Master Xiao. If Master Xiao enters the entertainment industry, they won't have a chance. In your dreams. It's already a lifetime's worth of good luck to be able to see the real person at such a close distance. You still want him to enter the entertainment industry and let you see him every day. Even after they had entered the hotel, the people at the entrance still refused to leave and were still enthusiastically gossiping. When has Boss Lu ever appeared without an entourage? Why did he come to the hotel alone so late at night? Who knows? Anyway, it's impossible that he's looking for a woman. What a pity, such an outstanding man is not interested in women. Why do you think Lu Tingxiao doesn't get close to women? I like men. Those are all nonsense. How can a man who likes a man have a son? I think Master Xiao must be an infatuated person. He's deeply in love with the child's mother, so he's been keeping his chastity for her all these years. When Lu Tingxiao went upstairs, he found that all the crew members had left. The people at the entrance of the hotel should be the last group of people, but Ning Xi was nowhere to be seen. He called Ning Xi again as he walked along the corridor to look for her. There was still no answer on the other end. When he passed by the bathroom, Lu Tingxiao suddenly stopped. There seemed to be a phone ringing coming from the direction of the bathroom. He stood still and listened for a while. He realized that it was coming from the direction of the women's toilet. Lu Tingxiao hung up the phone, and the sounds in the women's toilet also stopped. Lu Tingxiao heaved a sigh of relief when he finally found the person. Then, he frowned slightly. He couldn't enter the ladies' room to look for her. She didn't even respond when her phone was ringing. It seemed like she was really drunk. Ning Xi. Lu Tingxiao tried calling out, but as expected, there was no response at all. Lu Tingxiao stood in front of the sink between the men's and women's toilets. He raised his slender fingers and pinched the space between his eyebrows. The expression on his face was as if he was working on a major cooperation case that involved more than 1 billion yuan. A few seconds later, he walked toward the women's toilet with his slender legs. Words 1189 Update 22/07/018 hours 31 minutes and 6 seconds. Fortunately, CEO Lu was lucky. It was too late and there was no one else in the ladies' room. He immediately saw Ning Xi leaning against a door, drunk and paralyzed. Her high heels were kicked here and there, and the things in her bag were thrown all over the floor. Her hair was messy and covered her face. She was a completely different person from the glamorous girl she had left. Lu Tingxiao's eyes flashed with a trace of pity. He walked over to pick up her bag and put all the scattered things in it. Then he picked up her shoes and put his arm under her waist and knees. Just as he was about to carry her up, Ning Xi suddenly grabbed the door handle by the side and refused to let go. She propped up her drunken eyes and stared at the person with extreme vigilance. Who are you? Lu Tingxiao. Lu Tingxiao. Ning Xi looked dazed and then suddenly became furious. You liar? Do you think I'm an idiot? This is the ladies' room? Was this girl really drunk or just pretending to be drunk? She was quite smart. I'm not lying. Liar. I'm not leaving. I'm not going with you. Drunk, Ning Xi was like a frightened little hedgehog, full of vigilance. Ning Xi refused to leave. Lu Tingxiao could only put down the things in his hands and coax her. What do I have to do to make you believe me? Give me your ID card. Ning Xi looked like a police officer checking for drunk drivers. The corner of Lu Tingxiao's mouth twitched. He obediently took out his wallet and handed her his ID card. Ning Xi held the small card shakily. Her eyes were almost glued to it. Then she said word by word, Lu Tingxiao. You are Lu Tingxiao. Lu Tingxiao nodded with satisfaction. Can we go now? No, I'm not going with you. You're the devil. I'm not going, not going, not going. Ning Xi suddenly became more excited. Devil. Lu Tingxiao's face darkened. So this was how she thought of him? He thought he was gentle enough to her. They were in a deadlock when suddenly there was a sound of footsteps at the door. Ning Xi, are you inside? Lu Tingxiao's back stiffened. If someone saw him in the women's restroom, he wouldn't be able to stay in Beijing anymore. The footsteps of the person were getting closer and closer. Lu Tingxiao could see the corner of the person's clothes. He cursed in a low voice, quickly picked up Ning Xi's bag and shoes, and dragged her to the back of the door. It was the scriptwriter, Ye Linglong. Ning Xi was a newcomer and didn't know anyone in the crew. Only Ye Linglong noticed that she hadn't come out after entering the bathroom, so she came back to look for her. In the compartment, Ning Xi, who was suddenly pulled in, was frightened and struggled hard in the man's arms. Ye Linglong, who was outside, naturally heard the movement inside. Ning Xi, is that you? Lu Tingxiao's face was as dark as the bottom of a pot as he listened to the sound outside getting closer and closer. Just at this moment, the hand he used to cover Ning Xi's mouth was suddenly bitten by the little girl. The pain made him frown. Lu Tingxiao's brows showed signs of crumbling. When had he ever been in such a sorry state? After taking a deep breath, Lu Tingxiao slowly said in a suppressed and hoarse voice, "Don't worry. I'll give it to you." Ye Linglong was about to knock on the door when a man's voice came from inside the compartment. She froze for a moment and suddenly understood something. She blushed and hurried out. She didn't expect to run into someone who was working here. This was a hotel. Why didn't they go to the room to work? She really couldn't understand some people's hobbies. There was no one in the women's restroom. Where on earth had Ning Xi gone? Ye Linglong didn't expect that the heroine in the work was Ning Xi, the one she was looking for. Hearing the footsteps outside the door getting farther and farther away, Lu Tingxiao breathed a sigh of relief. He sat on the toilet lid, loosened his tie, pressed the noisy little woman on his lap, and scolded her coldly, "Don't make trouble. Otherwise, he wouldn't mind making it real." The man's tone was so scary that Ning Xi was startled and then began to hiccup. Her little face was full of grievance. Having just scared her, Lu Tingxiao could only pat her on the back helplessly and coax her. "Sorry, I shouldn't have been fierce to you." However, the person in his arms was even sadder, and her big eyes fell from her eye sockets. Lu Tingxiao was at a loss. Why was this girl more difficult to coax than Xiaobao? Damn it! Who do they think they are? Ning Xi suddenly waved her fist. If not for Lu Tingxiao's quick reflexes, his jaw would have been dislocated. Girls shouldn't swear. Lu Tingxiao frowned. Although she was very cute when she said it. Ning Xi was very drunk, but she could sense that the person who was hugging her didn't mean any harm and was very gentle, so she gradually relaxed. She sat on the man's lap and leaned against his chest, not struggling anymore. She said drunkenly, "I just don't want to. How about I go find a big thigh to hug? Do you think you can hold me down? I'll go find one right now, right now." Lu Tingxiao raised his eyebrows. He gently grabbed the woman's hand and placed it on his lap. The thickest thigh in the capital is right here. Where else do you want to find one? Ning Xi carelessly touched that muscular thigh, and then flew into a rage. Not thick. Not thick at all. Lu Tingxiao. She actually said it wasn't thick enough. This was undoubtedly unacceptable to every man. What was worse was that her hand was moving around on his leg and touching places she shouldn't have touched. She even slapped there. Ugh, what is this? Annoying. You're scaring me. She sounded very disdainful. Lu Tingxiao's face turned green. If he allowed her to continue tormenting him like this, he might do something against his principles. The person outside should have gone far, so Lu Tingxiao quickly opened the door and walked out with Ning Xi in his arms. They arrived at the underground garage. It was Lu Jingli who ran out to open the door for him. Why are you here? Lu Tingxiao frowned. I went to your place to look for you, but you and Xiao Bao weren't there, so I came here to look for you? Brother, you're so unloyal. When did you buy this car? It's even cooler than the one you gave me? I didn't even know it? Lu Jingli looked aggrieved. Lu Tingxiao ignored him and carried Ning Xi into the back seat. Lu Jingli stuck his head out from the front passenger seat and stared at Lu Tingxiao and Ning Xi's disheveled clothes. Where did you pick her up? Why were you gone for so long? Look, our Xiaobao is about to become a husband-gazing stone. Xiaobao's little face, which was originally pressed against the window glass, immediately stuck to Ning Xi when he saw her. Lu Tingxiao was worried that Ning Xi would go crazy because of the alcohol. He didn't expect that when Xiaobao approached, she didn't react violently. Instead, she held the little fellow in her arms and hugged him comfortably like a pillow. Of course, Lu Tingxiao would not satisfy her curiosity. He slowly took off his tie and his sweaty coat. What happened today? At the mention of intelligence gathering, which he was good at, Lu Jingli immediately said excitedly, according to my information, everything went smoothly. You even called Arthur over. Little Zixi naturally succeeded in stunning everyone. The media's evaluation of her is very good. Who did she meet tonight? Lu Tingxiao asked again. Lu Jingli recalled. Other than the crew members and Ning Yehua, there's only. Lu Jingli glanced at his brother's expression and thought about how to phrase it before saying, Suyan. I guess she was so drunk because she felt bad when she saw that her old lover had become the man of her nemesis, Ning Xi. Although Lu Jingli had carefully chosen his words, Lu Tingxiao's face still darkened in an instant. It was really scary. Ahem, but it's no wonder. When Ning Xi was abroad, she only fooled around with those people. After that, she dumped them. She was very carefree. Suyan should be the only man she has ever truly loved. It would have been better if he hadn't explained. But now that he did, Lu Tingxiao's face turned even uglier. Lu Jingli was speechless. The two of you haven't even started dating yet. What right do you have to put on an expression as if you want to slaughter the entire city? Brother, even if you want to fall in love with her, you should at least poach Ning Xi to Golden Era. Otherwise, it'll be very inconvenient for her to stay with Starlight. As far as I know, she's being suppressed by Ning Xi. Lu Jingli mumbled. Lu Tingxiao looked at the girl who had become extremely quiet after hugging Xiao Bao. It's not the right time yet. They had finally brought her back to the villa, but another problem occurred after they got out of the car. When Ning Xi saw the silver-white supercar parked next to her, her eyes suddenly burst with the light of a hungry wolf, and then she lay on the car and refused to leave. Her expression was like that of a little girl who saw her dream lover. Ow, Xiaobai, my little baby? Lu Tingxiao's expressionless face changed from red to orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. He had disregarded his reputation and went to the ladies' room to fetch her back. She did not even look at him kindly and even called him a devil. Now, she was hugging a car and calling him little baby? Ha ha ha. Brother, you're not jealous of a car, are you? Who told you to drive this car for no reason? When Xiao Zixi was abroad, she was a professional racer. She especially likes sports cars, so naturally, she can't resist the world's #1 supercar. Lu Jingli gloated at the side. Then, he realized that there was someone more jealous than Lu Tingxiao. That person was Xiao Bao. The little girl was on the verge of tears when she saw that her unique title of baby was given to a car. However, the culprit, Ning Xi, was still touching the car with an infatuated look. Baby, you're so handsome. So charming. I want to marry you. Lu Tingxiao's knuckles creaked as he clenched his fists. He had the urge to curse. When he proposed to her, she felt as if she had met a monster. Now, she was actually proposing to a car? Lu Tingxiao rolled up the sleeves of his shirt. Old Zhang, get me a hammer. Lu Jingli was laughing so hard that he couldn't catch his breath. When he heard that, he panicked. Don't. Brother, calm down. This car is worth almost 200 million. It's fine if you don't want to give it to me. I'll bring it away now. I promise I won't let it be an eyesore in front of you. As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Jingli felt like the world was spinning around him. He was actually thrown over the shoulder by the seemingly delicate Ning Xi. Who dares to touch my little white? Ning Xi's beautiful little face had an expression of killing gods and Buddhas. Lu Jingli held onto his waist. Hero, please spare my life. I was wrong. This girl seemed to have practiced judo for a few years. Being thrown by her was like losing half a life. After Ning Xi threw the man, she immediately got into the driver's seat and hugged the steering wheel tightly. Xiaobai, be good. Don't be afraid. Young master, this. Old Zhang, who was pushed away, was dumbfounded. Lu Tingxiao waved his hand and signaled for the driver to leave. Then he looked at his son. Little Bao, it's late. Go back to sleep first. Little Bao, who was immersed in his fall from grace, immediately shook his head like a rattle drum. Lu Tingxiao wasn't angry. He only said lightly, you should know that girls don't like to show their terrible side to the person they care about the most. Oh, the person they care about the most. Little Bao pondered for a few seconds, then turned around and left obediently. Lu Jingli's eyes widened. Brother, you're too shameless. You even lied to a child. Do you have anything else? I have something else. I want you to feel the heat of my big light bulb. Then he felt the bone-chilling coldness of his brother. All right, I'm leaving. I'm leaving too. Lu Jingli looked back ambiguously before he left. This man and woman, and a sports car. Could something have happened between them? Tisk tisk. The record-breaking 63x telephoto camera he had just bought could finally be put to use? Words 863 update 22/07/018 hours 31 minutes and 7 seconds. What? What do you want to do? Seeing Lu Tingxiao suddenly sitting in the front passenger seat, Ning Xi hugged the steering wheel with a protective expression. Lu Tingxiao leaned against the back of the seat, his eyes darkening. What did he want to do? She had better not know. At this moment, Lu Tingxiao's upper body was only left with a white shirt. He was fuming as he roughly tore open the button that was too tight at his collar. Then the second button, the third button. Ning Xi had been watching the man beside her warily. Seeing the man unbuttoning his shirt one by one, gradually revealing his muscular chest, she was so dazed that she even forgot about her beloved Xiao Bai. Lu Tingxiao didn't notice the look in her eyes. He forced himself to restrain the ridiculous feeling of being jealous of a car tonight. He took out a cigarette, lit it, took a deep drag, and exhaled a long puff of smoke. The moment Lu Tingxiao took out the cigarette, Ning Xi couldn't hold it in anymore. She stared at him without blinking. She stared at his moving Adam's apple, at the white cigarette between his thin lips, and at the slowly rising smoke. The gaze from the side was too intense. Lu Tingxiao finally turned his head and saw Ning 11's thirsty expression. Lu Tingxiao was dazed and was almost fooled by her gaze. Then he noticed that he wasn't in her eyes at all. What made her thirsty wasn't him, but the cigarette between his lips. Lu Jingli wasn't good at other things, but his ability to collect information was top-notch. In the background of Ning Xi that he sent over, everything from her background to her hobbies was detailed, including small details such as her quitting smoking recently. Lu Tingxiao immediately understood that her smoking addiction was acting up. Not as good as an old lover, not as good as a car, not as good as a cigarette now. Lu Tingxiao had never felt so defeated and self-doubted in his life. The first time he saw her, he wanted to take her for himself. But he was worried about her feelings and carefully considered every step. But she had never seen him in her eyes and had always drawn a clear line between them. She would rather think of hugging someone else's thigh than be his wife. Some people said that not being able to forget an old lover meant that the new lover wasn't good enough. Was he not good enough? She actually got drunk for the old lover who had abandoned her? He clearly knew that the best way to treat her was to take things step by step, and he had been patiently abiding by this principle. However, he did not expect that his rationality would be so fragile that even a small flame could be destroyed. Lu Tingxiao held the cigarette between his fingers, his eyes reflecting the red of the cigarette butt. His deep voice echoed in the carriage. Do you want to smoke? Ning Xi nodded without hesitation. She couldn't tell if she was attracted by the smoke or the man in front of her. Lu Tingxiao flicked the cigarette ash and took another puff under Ning Xi's burning gaze. The next second, he suddenly leaned over and pressed his thin lips, which were mixed with the smell of tobacco, on the girl's lips accurately. Ning Xi's eyes widened. She could only feel the strong smell of tobacco accompanied by the man's cold breath. Then her lips were softly pushed open and a mouthful of smoke entered. Ning Xi choked and coughed repeatedly. There was only half of the cigarette left at the tip of his finger. Lu Tingxiao calmly took another puff and looked at the little guy beside him, whose eyes were full of tears because of coughing and looked even more tempting and sadistic. He asked, do you want more? Words 1038 update 22/07/018 hours 31 minutes and 7 seconds. Ning Xi, choked by the smoke, glares at the man angrily, as if looking at a bad guy. Lu Tingxiao let out a low chuckle when he saw her expression. His smile rippled like ripples in his eyes. He pinched out the cigarette butt and spat out the smoke in his mouth. Then he leaned over again, turned his head and pressed his lips against hers. Ning Xi subconsciously wants to escape, but a hand grabs her waist, and a low, husky voice coaxes in her sensitive ears, I won't choke you this time. As soon as the voice falls, a kiss with the smell of smoke engulfs all her consciousness. Ning Xi is kissed dizzily, and her brain is in a mess, as if floating in the clouds. The only thing she understands is that the man who locks her between his arms is more dangerous than smoke. With a bang, the back of the chair behind her is put down, followed by the man's hot body. The breath in her chest is robbed little by little, and Ning Xi feels more and more dizzy, and then completely sinks to the bottom of the sea. The little guy under him suddenly becomes motionless and unresponsive. Lu Tingxiao raises his head, panting slightly, and then sees someone sleeping carelessly, even snoring slightly. Lu Tingxiao's blood-red eyes suddenly returned to their black color, and the surging anger in his heart also dissipated completely. Oh, he is really crazy. Why does he care about a drunkard? It's only been 3 days. They have only known each other for 3 days. Why is he in such a hurry? This little girl's attraction to him is unreasonable. When he first saw her, he had a kind of ecstasy of regaining what he had lost. Meeting her for the first time, it was like returning an old friend. In the warehouse of that bar, when he held her in his arms, he had the illusion that his incomplete life was finally complete, as if she was the treasure he had lost at some time. He wants her to belong to him completely, and he doesn't want to wait for a moment. He doesn't want to lose her completely, so he can only wait. Lu Tingxiao takes a blanket and pillow from the back, adjusts the temperature of the air conditioner, and then lies next to her, kissing her forehead. Good night, my girl. The next morning, Ning Xi wakes up in a warm embrace. She raised her hand and rubbed her eyes. Through the glass window above her head, she saw a patch of green leaves. The bright and beautiful morning light flowed through the gaps between the branches and leaves, shining on her body warmly. She could also hear the melodious chirping of birds. Oh, where was she? She looked around and was surprised to find that she was sleeping in a car. To be precise, she was sleeping in Lu Tingxiao's arms. Oh my god! Ning Xi almost scrambled to get up, and then her head hit the roof of the car, making her grimace in pain. Lu Tingxiao, in the car. Damn it, what happened last night? Why did I wake up in such a f***ing situation? It was impossible for her not to misunderstand the situation in front of her. What are you thinking about? Ning Xi bit her finger anxiously. Her brain was in a mess. She answered subconsciously, I was wondering if I had sex with the Demon King last night after getting drunk. That's too scary. Demon King. Che Zhen, if it's as you said, do you think you still have the strength to jump up and down early in the morning and let your imagination run wild? The man's voice was filled with anger. Ning Xi found that Lu Tingxiao had woken up. She was so scared that she bounced up and almost hit her head again. Fortunately, Lu Tingxiao was prepared and protected her head with his big palm. Mr. Lu, call my name. Lu Tingxiao's tone was slightly cold. When she was hypocritical, she called him Mr. Lu. When she was afraid of him, she called him Master Xiao. He didn't like it. She didn't know if it was her imagination, but Ning Xi felt that Lu Tingxiao seemed to have changed in one night. Words 852 update 22/07/018 hours 31 minutes and 8 seconds. Or rather, it wasn't that he had changed, but that he had hidden it so well that she had never known him. Ning Xi's eyes fell on the deep wound on the back of his hand and she asked, Lu Tingxiao, what happened to your hand? Lu Tingxiao glanced at the small bite mark and looked at her with a faint smile. What do you think? Ning Xi swallowed her saliva. These teeth marks look familiar. Lu Tingxiao looked impressed. Good eye. Ahem, thanks for the compliment. Ning Xi laughed dryly and asked carefully, did I bite you? Do you think I'm framing you? You can bite me again to compare, Lu Tingxiao suggested and extended his hand to her. Ning Xi waved her hands awkwardly. No, I admit it. Okay, by the way, what happened last night? I drank too much and only remember going into the washroom. I don't remember anything else. How did I come back? You passed out in the ladies' washroom. I went in and carried you out, but you refused to go with me and bit me, Lu Tingxiao answered simply and precisely. Ning Xi was confused. You went into the ladies' washroom. She was really sinful. The devil had sacrificed too much. Then why did I sleep in the car? Ning Xi continued to ask. Because you couldn't bear to part with your little darling. Lu Tingxiao emphasized the word little darling. Ning Xi glanced at the Adonis that she had admired for a long time and immediately believed Lu Tingxiao's words. I'm really sorry to have caused you trouble. Ning Xi apologized weakly. She felt really bad that so many things had happened on the second night. Lu Tingxiao didn't respond to her but asked an irrelevant question. Why did you drink so much last night? Ning Xi's face darkened. Looking at the sudden change in her expression, the beast in Lu Tingxiao's heart slowly emerged. Ning Xi didn't have the habit of sharing her worries with others, but it was probably too uncomfortable to keep them to herself. She leaned back in the chair weakly, looked up at the shade above her head, and murmured, I'm afraid the role of Meng Chang'e is gone. Lu Tingxiao was taken aback. What? It's just a supporting role. I know you won't understand even if I tell you. You don't know how hard I've worked for this day. You don't know how happy I am to get this role. You don't know. Ning Xi hurriedly raised her hand to cover her eyes as she spoke. Lu Tingxiao had always thought that she lost her composure because of Suyan. He didn't expect there to be a hidden reason. She was not sad because of Suyan, but because she had lost that role. Lu Tingxiao's mood, which had been gloomy for the whole night, instantly brightened up. Seeing the girl's sad look, his heart tightened again. How could he not understand how much she valued her dream? Otherwise, she wouldn't have refused to take the shortcut and stubbornly climbed up step by step. Don't be sad. You've already done very well. Lu Tingxiao held the girl's head and gently leaned it against his chest. So the main culprit wasn't Suyan, but Ning Yehua. Ning Yehua was the biggest investor of Under the Heavens and had the right to dismiss any roles. Even her biological father would not allow anyone to bully his girl. After Ning Xi calmed down, she realized that she had been crying in Lu Tingxiao's arms for half an hour. What the hell? She hadn't cried in 5 years, except when it was necessary for filming. I'm sorry. I dirted your shirt. Ning Xi looked at Lu Tingxiao's shirt, which was wet from her crying. Lu Tingxiao's lips curled up. It's honor. Ning Xi was stunned on the spot. Her heart was beating wildly. She had always thought that Lu Tingxiao was a genius with high IQ but low EQ. She had never expected the devil to be so good at flirting with girls. Jealousy? He was even better at flirting than her. Lu Tingxiao naturally reached out to tidy her slightly messy hair. What are you going to do next? Look for a thigh? Ning Xi blinked, puzzled. Huh? What thigh? Last night, you said you wanted to find a big thigh. You even said that mine wasn't big enough. Lu Tingxiao looked at her meaningfully. Cough, cough, cough. Ning Xi almost choked to death on her own saliva. Damn it. How many magical things had happened last night? Master Xiao, don't listen to my nonsense. I'm drunk. How can your thighs not be thick? You're the thickest person in the entire capital. Ning Xi had a fawning look on her face. After saying that, she realized that her words seemed a little ambiguous. Lu Tingxiao was in a good mood from the flattery. His eyes rippled with a smile. Then why don't you hug me? I. Ning Xi stuttered for a long time but couldn't say anything. Lu Tingxiao patted her head and finally let her go. Alright, I won't tease you anymore. Get out of the car and go back to the house to sleep. Only after a good rest will you have the energy to deal with the difficulties. Or do you want to stay with your little baby a little longer? No. Let's go back to the house. Ning Xi naturally couldn't wait to get out of the car. After getting out of the car, Lu Tingxiao stood by the car door and suddenly stopped moving. Ning Xi scratched her head. What's wrong? Lu Tingxiao strode towards a bush with his long legs. Ning Xi followed him out of curiosity. Then, she saw second young master Lu sleeping soundly in the grass with a camera in his arms. She knew that Shenxi not only had a management company but also more than 300 media companies. Second young master Lu was the leader of the paparazzi. But this guy was too exaggerated. He didn't even let go of the gossip about his own brother. The corners of Ning Xi's mouth twitched. Second young master, should we wake him up? Won't you catch a cold if you sleep like this? Lu Tingxiao nodded and sent a kick over. Lu Jingli awoke with a cry. As soon as she woke up, she started crying. This is too much. Why is the glass of this car so unscientific? I've tried everything, but I still can't see inside. Lu Tingxiao looked down at his silly younger brother. I'll be in the study later. I have something to tell you. Lu Jingli rubbed his eyes and patted the dust off his face as he got up. His gaze kept going back and forth between the two of them as he muttered, why isn't the car shaking? Did I miss it? Impossible? With my brother's stamina, it would take him at least one night. Ning Xi asked, why do you know your brother's stamina and time so well? It's very easy for people to misunderstand, okay. Lu Jingli scratched his head. Because he beats me up the whole night. Ning Xi. Fine, you win? After returning to the guest room that Lu Tingxiao had prepared for her, Ning Xi was completely speechless. In just half a day and one night, he had actually gotten someone to redecorate the guest room. The original style of the room was cold and clean, but now it was warm and cozy. Not only that, there was a row of clothes in the cupboard, all of them in her size, from pajamas to casual wear to evening gowns to jewelry and bags. All of them were top-notch limited edition. This is inhumane. What? Are you not satisfied? Lu Tingxiao stood behind her. Ning Xi held her forehead. It's not a question of satisfaction. Then what is it? Boss Lu. Call me by my name. Fine, Lu Tingxiao, don't you think you are too nice to me? So nice that she couldn't help thinking about it. You finally know that I am nice to you. Lu Tingxiao looked at her as if she had learned something. Ning Xi. Lu Tingxiao's eyes dimmed for a second when he saw the girl's hesitation, but soon returned to normal. You saved Xiaobao, and Xiaobao may need your help for a long time in the future. What's wrong with me being nice to you? Lu Tingxiao paused and then looked at her. Or do you want me to repay you in other ways? It turned out that she was overthinking. Ning Xi finally felt relieved. She quickly waved her hand and said, no, it's fine like this, it's fine. As for other ways of repaying him, he could forget about it. How could a person like Lu Tingxiao belong to the same world as her? If he knew her dirty past, he might not even let her see Xiaobao again. It's still early. Take a rest and come downstairs for breakfast. Okay. After Lu Tingxiao left, Ning Xi lay on the big comfortable bed, not sleepy at all. How could a person who was waiting for the bad news fall asleep? Even if the directors were very satisfied with her, could she withstand the pressure from the investors? She couldn't sit still anymore. Ning Xi turned over and sat up. She turned on the computer and logged into SN. Are you there? Dirty Demon King? Hey, Superstar Ning, why are you looking for me? Do you have money? Can you lend me 8 million? Dirty Demon King, what happened? Can you not ask for the reason? Dirty Demon King, I just invested the money in a winery. It may take some time. How long will it take? Dirty Demon King, 3 days. Thank you, she said. Oh, honey, this is the first time you have asked me. When are you going back to China? I'll pick you up. Filthy Demon King, Ning Xi, you are so heartless. Looking at the darkened portrait of the Demon King, Ning Xi felt suffocated. If she wasn't forced to, she didn't want to owe anyone a favor, especially when this person was someone she used to date. She knew that her method of equivalent exchange had hurt the other party's feelings, but she had no choice. She no longer had feelings, and she didn't want to have them either. As for why she didn't borrow from Lu Tingxiao, it was because she already had enough connections with the Lus. She really didn't want to get involved any further, especially when it came to things like money. An hour later, Ning Xi finally received a call. It was Cheng Li. Ning Xi clenched her fists, took a deep breath, and answered the call. Hello. Don't forget to turn on your phone at 9 in the morning. You can take a taxi there yourself. I still have to take care of Shuai Luo, so I don't have time to take care of you. Since you're so capable, you don't need me? Cheng Li was still as sharp as ever. The only difference was that her tone today was especially bad, as if she owed her 8 million yuan. What? Turn it on? Ning Xi was stunned. Did you sleep too much? Hurry up, you can't be late on the first day. Cheng Li's tone was impatient, and she hung up the phone directly. Ning Xi held the phone, unable to come back to her senses. What was going on? She wasn't replaced. Ning Xi climbed out of the bed, paced around the room, and finally dialed the director's number. Hello, Director Guo, sorry to disturb you so early, I have something to ask you. You want to ask about Chairman Ning's plan to replace you, right? Yes. Ning Xi's heart tightened. Ning Yehua really went to talk to her. Ning Xi, producer Wang, scriptwriter Ye, and I are all very satisfied with you. But the reality is cruel. Passion is not enough. The most important thing is the money. Sometimes we can't decide the roles. Who has the final say? The one who pays the most money has the final say? Hearing this, Ning Xi's heart gradually sank to the bottom. Was she still replaced? Then why did Cheng Li tell her to shoot the movie? Chairman Ning did come to me last night. He thought you were a newcomer and didn't agree to use you, but... Guo Qixin paused. Ning Xi was so anxious that she wanted to drag the director over from the other end of the phone and shake him. Couldn't he just say it all at once? But Ning Xi, you're lucky. Another investor is very optimistic about you and said that Meng Chang'e must have you. Do a good job. Really? Ning Xi's heart skipped a beat again. Don't be too excited. She felt that she had been fooled by the director. Director Guo, you did it on purpose, didn't you? You almost scared me out of my wits. Ha ha ha, young people are so impatient. Can you give me a definite answer? Have I been swapped or not? No, no. That investor invested 50 million yuan. It's the total investment of the Ning family and Starlight, so he has the final say. Aren't the only investors of this movie the Ning family and Starlight? Why is there another one? Ning Xi felt strange. It's just an additional investment. You'll know later. Guo Qixin said in high spirits. Suddenly there was an additional investment of 50 million yuan. Now it was a big investment of 100 million yuan. And Ning Xi, who he was most satisfied with, was no longer replaced by an investor who didn't know the market. How could he not be happy? Okay, thank you, Director. Ning Xi hung up the phone. Suddenly, the door was pushed open with a squeak. It was the sleepy little bun. Ning Xi screamed happily and then rushed over to hug the little bun and kissed her hard. Baby, you're really my lucky star. Every time, he would save me from danger. Outside the door, the devil looked at his son who was kissed passionately by the girl. It was his credit. But forget it. Looking at the girl's bright smile, nothing mattered. Lu Tingxiao walked over. Why are you so happy? Ning Xi held the little bun, who was dazed by her sudden enthusiasm. Just now, the director told me that I won't be replaced. The biggest investor of this show likes me very much. Is that so? Congratulations? Lu Tingxiao congratulated him in a serious manner. Ning Xi thought and touched her chin. But the director didn't tell me who the investor is. Anyway, he must be a very, very good taste, very, very handsome man. Lu Tingxiao chuckled. You really think so? Of course. Ning Xi looked protective and then suddenly thought of something. In this case, I may have to shoot during the day and sometimes at night. What about Xiaobao? Lu Tingxiao didn't reply. Instead, he looked at his son. After being passionately kissed and hugged by Ning Xi, Xiao Beizai was in a very good mood. Even after hearing the bad news, he still had a happy expression on his little face. Then, he ran to his room. Ning Xi thought he was going to lock her up again and was nervous. She didn't expect him to come back quickly with a writing board in his hand. On the writing board was written, Fight Ji, good luck. Ning Xi was so touched that she was about to cry. Thank you, baby. You're really my angel. Lu Tingxiao looked at the big and small hugging each other. His gaze was gentle like never before. The shooting started today at the film and television city in the suburbs. The first scene was the palace banquet. The emperor received foreign envoys. The 7th prince, Chu Baikan, and the 7th concubine, Shang Guan Yingrong, dealt with all kinds of provocations from the envoys. Ning Xi, who played the role of concubine Da, didn't have many scenes. All she had to do was sit beside the emperor and act like a vase. Even so, it was hard for her to wear layers of ancient clothes on such a hot day. Ning Xi's costume was the most complicated. Her clothes were the thickest, and the ornaments on her head weighed a few kilograms. It was not obvious from the outside, but the inside was completely soaked. The moment the director said cut, Ning Xueluo's 2 assistants immediately went up to her. One fanned her, and the other handed her water. The chair was also covered with ice cushions. Ning Xi didn't have any assistants. She didn't even have water to drink after the shooting. She still had scenes to shoot, so she could only unbutton her collar to get some fresh air. Everyone was praising Ning Xueluo's performance, including the director. However, he turned around and watched Ning Xi's scenes again and again. Although she didn't have any lines and there were only a few scenes, the look in her eyes was perfect. It was enchanting, lazy, bored, and disdainful because she was going to destroy the country with her own hands. Good, he could finally rest assured. At this time, Xiaoli, the stage supervisor, suddenly shouted excitedly, Ms. Ning, your boyfriend is here to visit you. Of course, he was calling Ning Xueluo. Suyan walked over in casual clothes, followed by 2 subordinates. They were carrying a big box and giving out ice cream to everyone. Wow, it's Haagen-Dazs? Thank you, Mr. Su. Ms. Ning is so lucky. Her boyfriend came to visit her on the first day. Oh my god, it's so unfair. Food can't stop you from talking. Ning Xi pouted and walked to Ning Xi with a box of ice cream. Junior sister Ning, have some too. Thank you. Ning Xi took it politely. Every time this woman appeared in front of outsiders, especially Suyan, she had to pretend to be an angel. She was not tired, but she was tired of watching. Fortunately, acting was her profession, so she did not mind acting with her. After returning to her seat, Ning Xi looked at Suyan. She wanted to say something but stopped on second thought. In the end, she said hesitantly, Brother Yan, I'm a little worried about Xioxi. What's wrong with Xioxi? Suyan immediately asked. Wasn't it the opening party last night? My dad also came and met Xioxi. I don't know what Xioxi said to dad, but he was so furious that he wanted to change her role. How could this be? Suyan frowned. I don't know either. When I arrived, I only saw dad's face turning green from anger. What happened next? Xioxi doesn't seem to have been replaced. Suyan took a look at Ning Xi. Although the girl was sweating profusely, she was still reading the script carefully. Under the sun, her little face, although embarrassed, was extremely dazzling. Ning Xi continued as if she was in a dilemma. My dad called the crew that night and they agreed on the phone that they would replace Xioxi. But unexpectedly, the next morning, someone suddenly anonymously invested 50 million yuan in this film. The only requirement was that Ning Xi must be the second female lead. I'm worried. The more Suyan listened, the angrier he became. Finally, he said seriously, I know Xioxi. She would never do that kind of thing. Brother Yan, you're too naive. What kind of place is the entertainment circle? How could anyone who entered this circle not change? I'm lucky because I have dad and you to support me. But Ning Xi, she quarreled with her family and refused to accept our help. Don't you know what a powerless and beautiful girl will encounter in the entertainment circle? Ning Xi, someone is looking for you. At this time, the floor supervisor suddenly shouted inside in a strange tone. For a moment, everyone's eyes were on him. Because it was too eye-catching. Red roses. An overwhelming number of red roses were brought in one after another. By the time everyone realized what was going on, the whole set had turned into a sea of red. It was summer and it was even hotter. Ning Xi held a card in her hand and almost fainted from anger. There was a line of words on the card, remember to pick me up at the airport, dirty demon queen. Miss Ning, please sign for it. F***CKU, take them back. It's too much trouble to keep them here. Ning Xi tried to be gentle. No, we promised the customer that we would only leave after you sign for it. The delivery man said awkwardly. Ning Xi pinched her eyebrows and wrote her name on the card. Now that I've signed for it, your task is complete. These flowers are mine, right? Yes. The delivery man nodded. Okay, I'll give them to you now. It's up to you whether you want them or not. The delivery man froze for a second and then called the workers over to carry the flowers out. Less than a minute after the delivery man left, someone came to find her again. This time it wasn't so exaggerated. The person gave her a small box. Ning Xi nervously opened it, only to see a large sparkling diamond lying inside, with a note attached. On the note were 4 words, long time no see. Signed, YS. Ning Xi's face darkened as she stared at the 2 letters. In just half a day, there were flowers and diamonds. The whole crew was in an uproar. And Ning Xi fell into the chair, looking hopeless. What would come would come. She couldn't hide from it. Ning Xi took a few deep breaths and tried to calm herself down. Then she walked up to the director. Sorry, Director Guo. I've caused trouble for the crew. A fair lady is a gentleman's dream? It's okay, it's okay. Guo Kishan smiled but still reminded her, it's good for the crew that an actor has a scandal, but it's easy to change. You'd better be careful. Ning Xi nodded. Thank you, Director. Not far away, Ning Xue sneered. She was jealous that Ning Xi had a face that could drive men crazy. She was happy that she had finally fallen to that level. Yan, do you still think she won't do that? Maybe those men are just pursuing her. Soyan looked conflicted. Pursuing? To put it nicely, it's pursuing? To put it bluntly, didn't he just want to keep her? Who in that industry would be sincere to a small celebrity with no background? Suyan's face was cold, unable to refute. Before the next scene began, Ning Xi quickly found a corner and made a phone call. Hello, dear. Have you received it? The voice on the other end of the phone was very leisurely. Zhang Wei, I'll F***CKU, you're sincere, aren't you? In contrast, Ning Xi was much hotter. Tisk tisk, you're the first one who didn't want to F***CK me after receiving my roses, but F***CK me instead. Isn't that too heavy a taste? Don't try to change the subject. What do you want? Nothing. I just wanted to remind you to pick me up at the airport. You've already promised me. How dare you ask me to pick you up? Aren't you afraid that I'll bring a 40-meter-long machete and hack you to death? Ning Xi suppressed her desire to kill. Are you going back on your word? The voice on the other end of the phone turned cold. The premise of me picking you up was that you would lend me 8 million yuan. But now I don't need it. Didn't I text you and tell you that? I don't care. Anyway, you've already promised me. Although I didn't lend you the money in the end, I agreed as soon as you asked me. It was such a large amount of money. That's not fake, is it? Don't you hate owing others? Isn't this favor a favor? Ning Xi held her forehead and walked back and forth angrily. I won't mention that you sent me flowers. But you know that the news that you will return to China next month has been leaked out. At that time, the airport will be full of your fans and the media. You want me to pick you up? Do you want me to be torn apart by them? Zhang Wei, didn't you just get dumped by me once? Do you have to do this to me? Did I? I'm giving you a free chance to be famous. Many starlets are begging for it. No need. Okay, if you don't come, I'll tell the whole world that you dumped me. Anyway, I don't care about losing face. I want justice for me, the person on the other end of the phone said in a fearless tone. You. Ning Xi was about to explode. The stupidest thing she had ever done in her life was to provoke Zhang Wei, the scourge. Do you think I can't deal with you? Ning Xi slowly raised the corner of her mouth and chuckled. Okay, I'm going to pick you up, right? Damn it, don't regret it then. Zhang Wei was actually fine. It was the first time for him to be dumped and he wanted to make trouble. It would be fine when he was done. But the one who gave her the diamond was the evildoer who gave her the diamond. Forget it, forget it. I'll deal with it when it comes. Ning Xi, someone is looking for. As soon as Ning Xi came out from the corner, she heard Xiaoli, the stage supervisor, screaming at her. She was so scared that she wanted to run away. Who is this? It's not over yet? If it was the first time, then it was still romantic. If it was the second time, then she would be popular. If it was the third time, then she would definitely attract bees and butterflies. Sure enough, people in the crew looked at her with unfriendly eyes. No wonder she can play Meng Changa. She's a vixen in real life. Can she handle so many men? What do you know? She must be enjoying it. I really thought she got the position with her strength. It turns out she's relying on cozies, and so many cozies at once. How could it be with her strength? She just behaved like a vase. Miss Xioxi, are you all right? This time it was a timid little girl. Seeing Ning Xi's pale face, she thought she had done something wrong and was very nervous. Facing such a girl, Ning Xi couldn't vent her anger no matter how angry she was. I'm fine. What can I do for you? I'm here to deliver something. As the little girl spoke, she opened a white thing that looked like an incubator. Suddenly, layers of cold white steam came out of it. Then, she saw 3 bottles of red, yellow, and green juice inside. This is. The corner of Ning Xi's mouth twitched. She had seen too many harem dramas, and her first reaction was that someone was trying to poison her. This is personally squeezed by my young master. There's watermelon juice, orange juice, and mung bean soup, the little girl replied. Who is your young master? Ning Xi was suspicious. She tried to remember if there was a young master who liked squeezing juice among the people she had messed with. The little girl gestured to her to look at the note on the bottle. Ning Xi took it off and saw an English word written on it, fight. There was also a heart drawn behind it. Ning Xi could imagine the shy look on the girl's face when she drew the heart. Oh, it's little treasure. Ning Xi's gaze instantly turned gentle, and her chaotic heart instantly calmed down. Why should she care about the gazes of those who didn't care about her? If she always cared about other people's gazes, wouldn't she die of exhaustion? In those days, she was too concerned about the contemptuous gazes of those so-called celebrities, too concerned about the so-called attitude of her biological parents, too concerned about Suyan's thoughts, so she lived more and more inferiority and lost herself. She had long understood this truth, but she was distracted for a moment. She would be herself and have a clear conscience. One day, she would prove herself with strength. She would only fight for those who cared about her. Put it down and thank your young master for me. Ning Xi took out her cell phone and sent a text message to Xiaobao. The crew seemed to be busy with their own things, but in fact, they were all staring at Ning Xi, curious about what she had sent this time. They seemed to see 3 bottles of fruit juice. For the first time, Ning Xi returned the rose. For the second time, Ning Xi didn't seem to be surprised. But this time, Ning Xi had a happy expression and was still happily texting. Well, was the juice filled with diamonds? Just as they were thinking about this, they saw Ning Xi raise her head and gulp down the juice bottle after bottle. They finally figured it out. The person who sent the juice must be the richest? In a sense, these people's guesses were quite correct. After drinking the juice and mung bean soup, Ning Xi was full of energy and went on stage again. At the same time, Lu Tingxiao, who was on vacation with his son at home, heard his cell phone ring. There was a new text message from Ning Xi. Lu Tingxiao clicked on it and the corners of his mouth curled up. Baby, thank you for the juice and mung bean soup, super delicious. Salin Heya. Lu Tingxiao looked at it for a long time before he waved to his son, who was staring blankly out of the window. Xiaobao, come here. Xiaobao ignored him. Lu Tingxiao sighed. There's a text from your Aunt Xioxi. Xiaobao rushed over like a rocket and jumped to get the cell phone. Lu Tingxiao raised the cell phone. I can show it to you, but call me dad. Xiaobao protested and refused to cooperate. When his son was about to cry, Lu Tingxiao finally relented and handed him the cell phone. Looking at his son, who was holding the cell phone with satisfaction, Lu Tingxiao looked worried. Maybe because there were very few things in the world that worried him, God sent Xiaobao to him to test him. Xiaobao was very smart and could speak at 6 months. Although he liked to be quiet and didn't talk much, he hadn't spoken since that incident. He had missed too much in his childhood. When he wanted to make up for it, he found it was too late. He didn't know when he could hear him call him dad again. Xiaobao stared at the phone for a long time, as if there was something he couldn't understand. Then, he moved in front of his father and pointed at the word Salin Heyo with his stubby finger, probably asking him what he meant. It's just a tone of voice. It doesn't have any special meaning, Lu Tingxiao answered seriously. Phtapa, you're uncultured. Don't lead Lil Treasure astray. Salangia means I love you in Korean, okay? Lu Jingli skipped over and waved a heart in his hand. Xiao Bao gave his father a look of disdain before running off to continue squeezing juice. Lu Tingxiao knew 12 languages. If Ning Xi had written it in Korean, he would have understood it. But if she wrote it like this, he would not be able to understand it. Don't you need to go to work? Lu Tingxiao glanced at Lu Jingli coldly. Lu Jingli immediately moved a chair and sat in front of him excitedly. Boss, I have something very important to report to you. Lu Tingxiao was too lazy to open his mouth. He looked like he was ready to fart. Lu Jingli waved his hands excitedly. Do you know what news I just received? Today, little Zixi's admirer went to the set and gave her a gift. That was the juice and mung bean soup that Xiao Bao gave her. Lu Tingxiao looked calm. I know, but before Xiao Bao gave her something, someone else also gave her something, and it was 2 people. One gave her a whole set of red roses, and the other gave her a 10-carat diamond. Lu Tingxiao's face gradually became cold. The hot summer was very cooling.